All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Well, listen, y'all. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics are Local. But more importantly, y'all know if it is the first Friday, y'all know it's time, of course, for our brother, the Honorable one and only Congressman Donald M. Payne Jr. with the Payne Report, everything Washington, D.C. So we're going to talk to him tonight. He's going to be coming up at around 8 o'clock. But before that, of course, Zaid, we got a couple of folks that are going to come up first. So starting at 6 o'clock, who we got?
The Uhuru Movement, some voices from the Uhuru Movement, including one of the prime targets of who make up the Uhuru Three, who've been targeted by none other than your FBI in a modern COINTELPRO attack that definitely merits all of our solidarity. I want to thank Lisa Davis for helping pull that together. Penny Hess is one of the actual lead defendants in this particular repressive action by the state. Looking forward to this conversation. Uh, and we have someone very new to our space who I'm not sure where he's coming in from, but I know he's done some work on the ground in Jerusalem. There's an organization called Grassroots Jerusalem. Khaled Farrag will join us after that. And of course, it'll be the state of hip hop with none other than our own DJ Rhino. And of course, we will cap off the night with our monthly segment with Congressman.
Uhuru.
Oh, good to see you, Warrior Woman.
Yes. So I guess I'm on, huh? I'm in the room. Yes. I want to first of all say thank you so very much for addressing this issue and for dealing with it and for having us on the show because, as you said, Brother Zaid, it is an extremely important issue. It is a continuation of what the United States has always done to people on the forefront of the Black liberation struggle, and even Black people who aren't on the forefront of the struggle. They find everything that we do a threat to them. And on July 29th in 2022, I want people to also understand these attacks are coming under the Democrats. This is the Biden administration who launched this. We got to understand this and talk the truth to it. But anyway, on July 29th, 2022, Omali Yeshitela, who is the chair and the founder of the Uhuru Movement, he's been an active warrior on the front lines of the Black liberation struggle for over 60 years or so. And you all correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, the FBI attacked him and his wife and members of the Uhuru Movement, members who work under.
Slow down.
Yes, okay.
I want you to say it very specific terms. When you say attack, now you've been on here before because we lifted this up from the beginning, but it's a teaching platform, right? Tell folks what you mean when you say attack.
Well, may I say, because Penny Hess was there.
I know. We're going to bring Penny in.
Right. But the FBI.
Right? Parker, we see you too. Welcome to the state.
Right. They did a pre-dawn raid using flashbang grenades, using drones, and they went into the home of Omali Yeshitela and his wife. They handcuffed them. They went into the offices of the the people who work with the Uhuru Movement, the African People's Socialist Party, their offices in St. Louis, also in St. Petersburg, and it was a very violent attack. People in the community didn't know what was going on, and they broke into their windows, their doors. They took their property. They took computers. They took cell phones and all of these kind of things, and then they hung over their heads for about 6 or 7 months, calling them unindicted co-conspirators to a person who was connected to Russia. And it is just outrageous. They accused them basically of being Russian agents. And this is because one of the things that the chairman did, the chairman has always been about speaking out against U.S. imperialism and these wars. And right after the United States began to use Ukraine as a proxy war with Russia, Chairman Omali Yeshitela was one of the first people to speak out and to condemn that. And then the next thing he knows, he's being raided. They conducted a raid on his place, a raid on the organization. And right now, he's facing 10 to 15 years in prison because he has been charged with being a Russian agent. And also, the U.S. Department of Justice had accused him of interfering with elections and things of that nature. And as the Black is Back Coalition, he happens to be the chair of the Black is Back Coalition, and I'm the vice chair. But one of the things that I'm very proud of is that we began to run electoral campaign schools in which we said, we're not going along to get along. We're going to inject revolutionary politics into these elections. And I think it was around 2016, I think, please correct me on this about the exact date, but Jesse Neville, who was also one of the people who's also facing 10 to 15 years, under the African People's Socialist Party, they ran for mayor on a platform of reparations for the Black community, Jesse Neville and Sister Akili Anayi. And they were the first ones to put reparations on the agenda, on the electoral agenda. And then after that made national news, international news when that happened. And then we see not long after that, then Marian Anderson, when she was running for president in 2020, she put reparations on the national campaign.
Marion Williams.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Marion Williams, you mean?
Yes, I'm sorry, right. So that's sort of like a synopsis of where we are now. And then
let me frame this. Let me
yes, yes.
And Penn, I'm gonna put you in a second. You're
I'm not hearing you.
veteran voice. Why do you keep getting muted? We get feedback somewhere. Your veteran voice in the Uhuru movement, and there's so much to break down and appreciate in how you come into this, right? But we just got word within the last week or so that the challenge that y'all made to the indictments to have them dismissed as they should be, right, was denied, right? So this thing is genuine, it's crazy and off the wall and nonsensical as it seems to everybody with eyes to see. This act of repression by the state is actually moving forward. That's the principal reason that we have you here at this moment. And ironically, when you made a point to mention this at the top of your remarks, that the question of repression is not necessarily a Republican Party thing, that this Democrats are doing this. None other than outgoing Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, tells the government that it's in their interest to move on the Palestinian solidarity movement in the same way that they just moved on Uhuru 3 by virtue of they have this, that's their line, that's the Russian line, right? So what we're trying to get at is not just to let everybody know and how to continue the mobilization of urgent solidarity around defending the human rights of the Uhuru movement, but to also let everybody know that the hand of fascism ain't just singling out the Uhuru 3. It could be any of us who is serious about this work to end oppression of this racist and colonial system that we're talking about, right? So I just wanted to add a little more immediate context because I want folks to see that, because that whole thing has not gotten the kind of news that we generated when y'all first came under attack a couple years ago. I just lost a comrade who's very much a part of the United Front Against Fascism that we're trying to build in the New York area. And the late Viola Plummer. And right after y'all came under attack, we had a big rally right at Sister's Place in Brooklyn, condemning the attack and making this call for a united front, right? A united front against fascism, and much the way that took place back in 1969, when the Black Panther Party called for a national united front against fascism, right? So I just want to make sure we got all that background, and Lisa, you coming in firing, and that's how you roll, and I appreciate that, right? Penny, I don't know if you probably don't even remember me, because I'm just an old foot soldier in these radical ass spaces. But we have met several times in national spaces,
Yes.
usually in Washington or in Philadelphia, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's instructive, your emergence in this particular space of struggle, and you've been in this space for some time now,
Yes,
right? Right? It's very instructive for folks who don't understand how, we need to truly unite and, and fight against this system. Tell us, before we jump into the latest twists in the case that's being made against you, tell us how you came into this space. As you person, you don't look like my streets of Plainfield, New Jersey. You look like a nice girl from the suburbs. You wind up in this dangerous, radical ass space, trying to change the world, and really believing you could do this shit.
yes. Uhuru, thank you. Hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Saeed and Edward. And it's really an honor to be here. I want to salute Lisa Davis, the vice chair of Black is Back Coalition, and just such an amazing and dynamic leader and comrade, and also Bakra from the African People's Socialist Party. It's an honor to be here again. And I heard Chairman Omali Shatella speak in 1976 in Louisville, Kentucky. And right at that time, he was actually on a tour to form the Solidarity Movement, the Solidarity Organization of white people under the leadership of the party. And so he was calling for people from the white community to come to St. Petersburg, Florida, a month or so later, to come to this conference. And I did, and some others did. And it just, he laid out the whole struggle of, for African people to be free, to have the return of Africa as their land, and to be able to have self-government and freedom and liberation, and that's a fight that has to continue. And he laid out that they were creating a front in the white population that we could be part of, and that we would understand that we were not fighting, as the chairman says, we're not fighting against racism. The party is fighting against colonialism, fighting against the political and economic domination of African people, and for the benefit of the white population. And he laid out how, this whole system was built, not only capitalism, but the United States itself and the wealth of Europe, built on Europe's assault on Africa beginning in the 1400s, and how all of Africa's gold was looted, and human beings were attacked and kidnapped and turned into commodities for sale, and enslaved and forced labor for hundreds and hundreds of years on land that white people had come to and committed genocide against the rightful owners in what is called the Americas and the whole Western Hemisphere. And this is how white people have wealth, have prosperity, even have democratic rights. And this is this gap between, the fact that in some places in this country, the average African family might have, $10,000 in assets, and the average white family might have $250,000 in assets. And why is this? This is a total myth that white people worked hard, or all of this, and the chairman really exposed it. And it really made sense to me. It really made sense to me, because otherwise, how can we explain that? And actually, I sort of went about and sort of, started reading history and reality, and absolutely, all of this is true. It's documented history. It's not somebody's fantasy. This is how the world got to be the way it is. And further, over the years, after I joined APSC in 1976, and I have been in it, all this time, and working for reparations, to African people, and working to win other white people to stand on this side under the leadership of the African Revolution. And I did have to, investigate the history of white people in relationship to African people. And it is a hideous, a bloody and violent history that, not just this government, but regular white citizens, including white women, have perpetrated, just untold violence in so many ways, not just lynchings, not just terror, but psychological violence, just in every way, stealing everything that African people had. You look at, how would the world be if Tulsa hadn't been burned down by white mobs? So it might have grown and been a huge economic base for the African community, or Rosewood, or all of, just all of the crimes that the white population has been involved in. And so, we had to study this. This is why I wrote a book called Overturning the Culture of Violence, that takes the political understandings of the chairman and talks to other white people to say, look, this is what we did. We can't stand here and go, oh, we're the rational ones. We're the good ones. We're we're this and that, the civilized, all this BS that, that we put out, and that we have to look at this truth and really take responsibility for it, and make a self-criticism, and say that this is why we are committed to turning back over the stolen resources, and genuine, forwarding in every way that we can the movement for the liberation of Africa and African people. And that's what we've been building. And I have been here all this time because that struggle isn't over yet. Colonialism and what the chairman calls the colonial mode of production is still here. So, yeah.
Now listen. Now, just very quickly. Now I want you to break down structurally what that means. Chairman O'Malley is there are several formations within the Uhuru movement. Let's break that down structurally, so folks can understand it, because I want them to see that you leaned on it a little bit in terms of the committee, but I want folks to understand just where that fits into the broader picture of what makes up the Uhuru movement.
Well, if you had a chart, like the top of that chart would be African People's Socialist Party, which the chairman is the chairman of. And that is a party of cadre of people who are serious professional revolutionaries, and put out the Burning Spear newspaper, and all of the different highest echelon work of the party. And under that are mass organizations such as the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, the African National Women's Organization, and APDEP and others, and Hands Off Uhuru now. And then sort of, under that is the APSC, the African People's Solidarity Committee, which also is a cadre organization under the leadership of the party. In other words, the Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party is our leadership. And then APSC has a mass organization called Uhuru Solidarity Movement, which is really powerful and has members in over 117 cities in the United States. And, you know, we really work to build. So that's kind of the chart in a way. So
yeah. Now just for everybody's frame of reference, O'Malley is somebody I've been following for a long time, and he would remind you if he were here that the march of what became the Uhuru Movement began back in his days in SNCC in St. Petersburg, Florida, back in '66, right? And the movement against a racist mural in that town led to this formation and this movement in that town. St. Petersburg would become a very important beachhead of Black resistance in 1996. There was a horrible police brutality case. I can't remember the young man that was killed by the police back then, but
Tyron Lewis.
Thank you, Tyron Lewis.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all jump in on this too as I break it down. But you know, put the police on trial. It was, you know, the community under the Uhuru Movement's leadership did a community-based forum laying out all the facts and information, who the police were that did it, what the facts were. Young brother just had a nice car, his hands on the steering wheel, bother nobody, just driving while Black, gets shot to pieces. And then all of a sudden, in 1996, not 1926, 1996, that legal public meeting standing on the principle of justice and democratic principle, for whatever that means in the United States, came under live fire by the police.
Good. Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
the boys in the hood,
Mm-hmm.
most discounted and most marginal segment of our community, had a Malcolm moment, if you will, had a Maroon moment, and realized that the guns that they had given to them by state forces to participate in their own destruction were actually firing in on Auntie and Uncle and Uncle, you know, Bubba and all our folks, and decided that, you know, we're gonna use these to defend our community, and actually engage the state and forced a military retreat of the state and literally saved lives. Right? And that it's my modest judgment that particular bold stand of both the streets responding to the value of the work of the Uhuru Movement, and the work that the Uhuru Movement was doing itself really began to, you know, make the government start paying real attention to y'all. Now that's just an analysis that I'm making, because I never forgot that was an important moment in the struggle against police brutality in this country.
Yes, it was.
Hugely important moment, because I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey.
Okay.
Right? Plainfield, New Jersey in '67 had an armed uprising also that don't nobody talk about. See, and the only casualties in that uprising was the white pig that started it, right? So that, you know, those stories have to be reclaimed, because they truly demonstrate that people, we say power to the people. That's not just a democratic and a political slogan. There are times when that has to be expressed and manifested militarily. We need to be very strategic, and we do that, of course, right? Dealing with a big beast that we're up against, but there are times and places when even that becomes necessary, right? So you know, the full dimensions of all of the revolutionary elements that go into why y'all are under fire now, I just want to make sure we're lifting up. Y'all with me? Bob, jump in this conversation, little brother, because are you not a model, right? I haven't seen you in a while, right? Feelings and any blanks that I'm missing, and then we're gonna really dive into just what y'all actually are facing now and what we need to be talking about in terms of solidarity.
Yeah, thank you for having me. As Comrade Penny said earlier, I'm a member of the party here in Newark, and also I'm the rep for the region, what we call the Northern Region, for IMPEDUM, which is the International democratic movement, one of the mass organizations of the Uhuru Movement. And yeah, the party is one of those entities that cut to the chase. We don't talk about we fighting racism. We fighting the system that all of those manifestations come from, i.e., colonialism, right? So we're challenging the structure. We're not reformists like some of our other comrades may be. So we will always be a threat because we talking about breaking down this whole doggone system. And so they're always going to use all kinds of tactics like this current one. I mean, it comes out of the they use the same playbook because they did this in the McCarthy era. Before that, with the Communist Party in the 20s and 30s and the teens and so on. So anyone that seems to be against this system in a fundamental way, they're going to try to find ways and means to destroy it. And your analysis was right on point because this is about the freedom of anti-colonial speech. And it's not just us. It'll be any one of us that have a radical perspective against this system. And that can be even the milk toast radicals. Even they would be on the threat. So it's really important that everybody that understand this is not simply them going up against the African People's Socialist Party because of our stance, but they're trying to silence any kind of dissent to this system. And now look where they look into jail an 80-plus-year-old man who has been fighting for his people for pretty much all his adult life.
He's amazing.
Because
he's amazing.
He is
brother.
what? A Russian agent?
Brother.
Because every time when I'm on the street and I and I'm integrating with the people on the street and I show them, I said, "Did you hear about this?" They go like, "Nah, man." And then I would go down, explain it to them what happened. And I'll say and every one of them, when I said, "Do we need the Russians to tell us that we being oppressed here in America?" And I always get this quizzical look like, hell no, right? So to the layperson, that's essentially what they're saying, that Black people need Russians to tell us that we being oppressed in America. Like we stupid. We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's how COINTELPRO emerged coming out of the 50s too. They were worried about the CP of influence on the
I just want to say this,
immigration
brothers. I've been seeing you around for like 40 years because I lived in New York, and in the 80s, you can tell when it was December 12th, Patrice Lumumba, UAM, you name it, I was around because I was in my college years. Then that's when I started to become radical because of who my mentor was, Marimba Ani. And so I know you from way back. Now we all gray. Back then we
So let's come on back. Penny, I want to come back to you, right? And Lisa, you gave us the weaponry and to do that, right? Because I don't want this to be missed either, right? We laid out those confrontations, but also and I mentioned it at the top, Penny, that there's something very instructional about the Solidarity Committee within the Uhuru Movement. That there is this lane that was created, right, for white folks to take ownership of their responsibility in this whole thing. In recent years, we're finally starting to see movement around the question of reparations in this country, and starting to see movement that we haven't expected in a long time in multiracial spaces, right? But what I want folks to appreciate is that it was your committee, you and your committee that was out in front of that years ago, right? So why don't you just give us some background on how reparations became such an important priority for the committee, and why that movement for reparations is so particularly important to this time as well. You're muted, Payne. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Am I muted?
You're good.
Okay. Thank you for the question. And first of all, I just want to say that was such a really powerful summation of the significance of the rebellions of 1996. And I really appreciate that. That was amazing. And I just want to say about the question of reparations. Well, the chairman and the African People's Socialist Party held the first tribunal on reparations to African people in 1982, and they held it in Brooklyn at the, I think it was called then Brooklyn Tech College or University. And it was so historic. I had the honor of being there. Afeni Shakur spoke, and Akil Ajundi from the Attica, and Professor Leonard Jeffries gave the whole history of Africa. And I mean, it was amazing. And there were just so many powerful testimonies from various sectors of the African community. And the chairman used, and it's just so amazing, so powerful, because he used the UN Convention on the crime and punishment
of genocide.
Of the crime of genocide, and on the prevention, I think it's called the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. And he used that to indict the US government for genocide. And it's just so, just thinking about what South Africa has just been doing and using that same thing. The chairman used it then, and all of this testimony from almost every aspect of life of the African community contributed to this whole indictment of the US. And it was a very serious, not a mock trial. It was a very serious trial of the US. And of course the panel of judges did rule that the US was guilty, and that in the dollars of 1982 owed $4.1 trillion to African people just in the US alone.
1980. Those are 1982
numbers. Yes, and that was all the calculations and everything that they did. And one of the things that was very important about that is that back then, a lot of people did not know what reparations was. And one of the chairman's goals for that tribunal, which they held at least 12 in the years subsequent, other tribunals like that around the country and in London over the years subsequent to 1982. But the chairman had a goal, and he always put it out. We want to make reparations a household word. So it wasn't then. I mean, so obviously APSC, the African People's Solidarity Committee, our work was to take this question of reparations out in the white community. And just looking back at some of our, really early kinds of things, we used to have a march against genocide, we called it, over in Oakland, Berkeley area, where we were for many years. And there's signs of people like reparations to the Black community, reparations to African people. And we had a solidarity center in Oakland, right on Telegraph Avenue. And we had a big banner, white reparations to the African community. And, and then, every year, and then we started calling our march, instead of the March Against Genocide, we started calling it the March for Reparations every year. So, we just did a lot of work. That was our front to win this question of reparations. And of course, the chairman and the party were putting that out in the Burning Spear, calling for reparations, on many, many fronts. So really, we have to attribute the fact that it is a household word today to just the incredible, work that Chairman Amalia Shatella did to make that the case. So
that was an
it's really
important,
powerful.
that was an important seeding,
Mhm.
SEED,
Yeah.
seeding moment for the
Mhm.
reparations movement, and the establishment of the national reputation for the Uhuru movement as well, right?
Yes.
There have been a number of us within the the Black radical tradition have been using tribunals,
Mhm.
right, to raise other important human rights questions. 1990, we had the tribunal around the question of political prisoners in New York City, right?
Mhm.
We had a tribunal right around the same time to expose the vicious hand of U.S. imperialism and the invading of Panama, right? We had just had recently the Spirit of Mandela tribunals, where we again raised up the question of political prisoners, but in the larger context of again charging the United States with genocide, right? So this march, right, that Malcolm, made our responsibility with his life, right, and of course Garvey roots, right? Mr. Garvey tried to sound that drums back in his time, right? That march continues, right? And when you do not give up, you'd be surprised when that time comes when you start genuinely breaking ground. So I want to really commend it. Now, in the few minutes that we have left, let's really talk about what you're facing, right? Lisa acknowledged that O'Malley is facing up to 10 years. And I don't know if you know about
15
Bob
years.
O'Malley, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
but he's in his 80s and he's in better shape than both of us,
Mhm.
right? Sharp, brother. I've been following him since about the late 70s, early 80s when that tribunal went down in 82. And he really, the way he take, if I get to 80, whatever he is, I want to be 80 like him, right? But
Me
in the
too.
basement, but under but why are we talking about putting a man who's
Yeah.
an octogenarian in prison?
Yes, I mean, I would just, if I could, I would like to say something about that because it's so important that people and that your listeners understand this. They want to silence Chairman Omali Yeshitela. This is a free speech issue that the chairman is under attack and the party is under attack because they actually build programs like the Black Power Blueprint, incredible program here in North St. Louis in the African community. That includes a basketball court, a doula project, a doula training program for African women or anyone who wants to work to aid births, a community garden, a farmer's market, a program for African people coming out of prisons to be trained in jobs, to be able to have their own self-sufficiency. I mean, just so much more. Just acquired a building a couple days ago, right on the same strip, to open up a restaurant, a quick food restaurant for that community, which has no good food to eat around there at all. So the party is doing things that the city would never do. In fact, the city of St. Louis and any other city basically is about ripping off the African community, not seeing it built. So the party has done this, and they've always done that. They have the radio station in Florida, the Uhuru houses, Uhuru Foods and Pies out in Oakland. I mean, they've had the Uhuru furniture stores. This is what the party does. It builds on the ground, and this is why it was attacked. It wasn't just
And
talk.
unique to that, that's important to appreciate. Unique to that's important to appreciate. My roots are in the Black Panther Party, right? Is that this is collective work that is being done on socialist principle, not capitalist principle.
Yes,
Real clear.
or anti-colonial.
We need to be real clear about that. Yes.
Yes.
Right on, right on.
Let me just say this before we, our time is up, because this is really important, and I really want to share this with everybody. Everything in the indictment, this indictment, which is so bogus, and it would be laughable if they weren't serious, and it's actually 15 years each that they want to put us in prison for. So that's why the chairman said it's a death sentence for him, because he is in his 80s. But I want to say that this isn't about, there's nothing about fraud or theft or murder or drug. This is about speech. This is about speech. And our lawyers say that the courts have charged us each with a violation of statute 371, which is conspiracy, and one count of statute 951A, which is acting as an unregistered foreign government agent, to wit, the Russian Federation. And it is saying so absurdly that the chairman, who has worked and fought fiercely every single day of his life since he was 24 years old in the 1960s for the liberation of African people, obviously on his own brain and brilliance. But this indictment is saying in 2014, the chairman suddenly became a Russian agent, and Jesse and I. And I mean, how ridiculous is that?
And if you listen to dumb and clumsy Nancy Pelosi, that's what all of us are now, right?
And
anybody that having any notion at all of solidarity with the Palestinian people in their rightful fight for self-determination,
but
right? We're all a bunch of Russian nuts that need to be locked up.
But see, they can say that because she said that a day after our motion was denied.
Exactly.
And so this is they are using the chairman as a test case for the First Amendment. And as another one of our lawyers had said, if they convict Omali Yeshitela, there will be no First Amendment in this country. That's right. They will be able to try.
The domino effect is going to be in full blow.
Anyone for anything. And people have to understand this. This is what they're trying to do. And they're using the African Liberation Movement as, quote, the canary in the coal mine for the entire political, spectrum in this country. And they always do that. They always have to attack, the right of African people who are fighting for the liberation. It really has to make you angry. And this is, what we're organizing around, because I was looking, let me just say one more thing. I was looking recently at the origins of COINTELPRO and what the church committee, remember the church committee in 1975 of the Senate, what they stated about it. I was just reading it, and quote, they said the Bureau, I guess the FBI, conducted a sophisticated vigilante operation aimed squarely at preventing the exercise of the First Amendment rights to free speech and association. That was the original, goal of COINTELPRO. And of course, they used assassination, murder, imprisonment. We know,
every dirty trick in the book. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, let's big picture this. I mean, this has happened. They started coming at y'all, in 22 with these crazy charges and whatnot. But that was on the heel also of our epic George Floyd summer, where we saw mass mobilization like we had not seen in a long time.
Yes, so true.
And then most recently down in Georgia, as folks mobilized to stop, the slaughter, not just of folks by the police, but the slaughter of the environment with the fight against Cop City, similar charges are coming up, right? And and then when Viola slipped out of here, in 1982, they were part of the New York 8.
That's right.
Rudolph Giuliani didn't come out of the sky with his backwardness. He was a fascist prosecutor in New York before he became mayor, and he was coming after them. They had survived that, right? So all, just big picture this, y'all jumping in a couple moments that we have left as why this is important and to see it in this big picture way, and why this solidarity is important. We can't afford to lose y'all on this.
And I will really also join you in saluting Viola Plummer, a great leader, really such an important and significant figure in African history and the struggle. So I just want to say that was a tremendous loss for the movement, and I just unite with that. And it's such an honor to be able to be part of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Chairman Omali Shatella has fought like hell, just like you're saying. How can you believe he's in his 80s? He's the youngest person I know. And he's brilliant. He's a theoretician, and he's a strategy person, and and an organizer, and just out there until his last breath. He is fighting for, he says he wants to see African independence in his lifetime. And I want to see that too, because it is in the interest of white people. It's not in the interest of white people to continue to, one, be the enemy of African people and the people on the planet Earth, to be the equivalent of what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people. And it's not in the interest of white people to continue to try to live and get everything we can at the expense of African people, or to continue to sit on the backs. It is in our interest to join the world that the chairman is trying to build, that the Palestinian people are trying to build, that there would be a world without war, with true socialism, which can only happen when the colonial mode of production is overturned once and for all. And there will be peace and prosperity for everyone. This is, even how this system is never going to enable the planet to heal with all the environment. Only when African people and indigenous peoples, Palestinians, have power. That's the world that cares about the earth and people and everything in it, and it's, as white people, it is in our interest to be part of that. And that's what we do. We talk to white people, and we're growing more.
White folks don't just think you crazy anymore. They actually listen to you.
Yes, they have to listen, because, like the chairman says, sometimes the reality in the world catches up with the chairman's theory. He's always ahead of his time. And but I mean, we've been out here for a long time, for a long, long time, and certainly have many people who've been part of this movement.
Right. And I would just like to jump in here and just say that because we are organizing on the ground in Newark, and we want people to be a part of this movement. Please go to handsoffuhuru.org. Again, that's handsoffuhuru, UHURU.org. And you can sign up to be on the mailing list. You volunteer. This is such an important movement, but also we are organizing locally on the ground in the Newark area, and we have to make this a big movement. This is about what is going on with the African People's Socialist Party and the chairman, but it's so much bigger, as we know. And things have only gotten worse in terms of the condition of the world since that happened. We now see, in terms of them going after the Palestinian people and denying their right to free speech. I mean, locally, New Jersey's horrible with this. I know of so many horrible things going on in New Jersey, preventing and discriminating against, the Palestinian people, and certainly people who are on the right side of this issue for Palestine.
I want to make sure I got it right, because I'm going to put it on our YouTube page, right?
Yes.
Handsoffuhuru.org, right?
Yes, handsoffuhuru.org, right? And if they want to connect with people locally, like Brother Bakra and myself, they can reach out to 862-462-4091. Again, 862-462-4091, and certainly become a part of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. And also, just really interesting how they're going after Omali Shatella, definitely. I mean, we know that, but how they're going after Penny Heston, Jesse Neville, two white people. I ain't never known them to go after anybody affiliated with the Klan like that. They're facing 10 to 15 years as well. And while Carolyn Bryant was allowed to just die in peace without any worries, in fact, and it was under the Biden administration, the Department of Justice found nothing wrong with what she did. but they find
Carolyn
issues.
Bryant, for everybody's benefit,
Yes,
is the white woman that Emmett Till is alleged to have hit that, right? That led to Emmett Till being lynched in the most gruesome and horrible way back in August of 1955. She just passed away and probably went to hell by virtue of the lie that she carried for all of those years. Ed, you want to jump in as we wrap up, and then and also we'll wrap up with our ritual question for everybody as we wind down?
No, no, no. I'm good. I just want to wish these folks good luck, and obviously let them know that, of course, what we do here, we're the drum for the community. They're more than welcome to come back anytime they have any updates and let us know.
Y'all should know too that Ed is the founder of is the founder of this platform. A great brother, inside and outside the ring kind of fighter and warrior, right? Very proud of this brother. But this platform started in we thought was a progressive community context at Rutgers University in Newark, only to find ourselves purged by virtue of some bogus class jealousy that took place on the campus under the scapegoat cover of COVID, right? But he started this out. What year did you start All Politics, Ed?
2011.
Well,
it's actually 09.
Right.
In 09.
Yeah. So that's going into year 15. Mm-hmm. Year 15, defying those who would try to silence us as well, and we have folks who look like us who participate in this repression mess too, and so we need to be real clear about that. Class struggle is real. And ask them the ritual. Y'all gonna laugh at this, Lisa. You know about it already. Ask them the ritual question as we go out.
So, of course, all y'all know that we are a political hip hop radio talk show. So, what are you guys currently listening to now that gives y'all the motivation to keep struggling and keep fighting against the powers that be? I just gave y'all a song just in that question alone.
Well, I can speak for myself. My music taste is from the 70s, right? I always tell people that I grew up in the 70s and my ears developed a filter for good music. And till to this day, that music inspires me. That music makes me feel good to fight every day. Because that music touches the essence of who I am, Uhuru.
I'm from Plain.
Anytime anybody asks me anything about music or my favorite anything, I'm always going to come up with this answer: Marvin Gaye. But definitely Marvin Gaye. What's going on? But Stevie Wonder. I'm kind of like old school as well. But I love Stevie Wonder's Front Line. They had me on the front line but on the back of the line when it comes to getting ahead. So those things help to inspire me. And of course, my all-time favorite album, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On.
Go ahead, Patsy. What you got?
Hear me. Oh. Yeah, so Uhuru, I appreciate this. And I just want to say that I am always incredibly inspired by actually Alikia Ngoma, who is sort of the Uhuru Movement songwriter and who has an incredible song called the African Nation Fight Song. And it really inspires you to get out there, to be in the struggle. And I appreciate that. And if I could, just really quick, I just want to say, if people can go to handsoffuhuru.org, thank you, Lisa, for putting that out. And if anybody can donate, we're gonna go to trial. They're forcing us to go to trial now, and we're still raising a lot of resources for the legal battle on that front. Thank you, and thank you so much. This has been so powerful.
Yeah, and I'm damn sorry that y'all are going through this, because it's just totally wrong, totally foul, and it's about and even if You survive the legal challenge, the cost. If you talk about resources now, right? All in programs and spaces that you're trying to manage, that becomes a real challenge in a way that's totally unfair. But they know what they're doing. That's their play. This is not new. This is not new stuff. This is a new moment. This is a rewind. Hip hop folks. This is a repression rewind that we're looking at in this particular story, and but solidarity is the order of the day, right? Principle solidarity is the order of the day. We stick together, we'll win, right? Resistance is what's up, right? So a salute to all of y'all, Lisa. I've enjoyed watching you finding the vehicle to find your voice, right? Lisa's was in another organization, name I'm not going to mention, and I used to tease. I said, "You're the most radical sister in this organization. I don't know if they can handle you, right?" And she moved on into a space where her voice can really be heard and have an impact. So I'm very proud of each and every one of you. This is an open mic for you. This is Drummers is available to you as things develop. We will definitely help get stuff out in terms of mobilizing and building support for you as you do get ready to go to trial, right? So,
thank you.
Solidarity is always the order of the day, right? Thank all of y'all for coming on.
Thank you so much, Uhuru, and we are winning.
Uhuru.
Let's see, how do I go off?
Good stuff. Right?
Thank
Yes, and you saw all the Uhuru comrades been chiming in with blowing up the chat.
Yeah. Well, I don't see your people plugged. I see them back there, Zaid, but I don't see them on camera. So
come on. This is Myrna developed this. There she goes. Did Myrna coming on?
Hey, I don't have access to the background, so I don't know
trying to get you to come on in. Right. Wow, there we go. Very good. Now we got the oil in the pot.
That's right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that first segment on Uhuru and the reparations conversation and the historical context that you're consistently giving us on this show. Like I would love to eventually, I would love an opportunity to hear like what was when you were building the anti-fascist or part of building that anti-fascist coalition, like given how we've tried to build some here in under these particular conditions, like what were the lessons learned before and like what consistently stays getting in, consistently stays in the way, because we're going to need regardless, like even listening to like one of the things that I think is really important and one of the work that we try to do in libraries, because I absolutely fully agree with Bakra and Penny when they were talking about that this is about anti-colonial speech and people's inability to engage in anti-colonial speech, and precisely what does that mean. We tried to pass a resolution with librarians at the American Library Association when we looked at when BDS is under attack, right? There was that period in 2016, 2019, where they were passing all these resolutions that we weren't allowed to boycott. And so when you look at two things, the material implications of people who speak out, right? We have to ask that question, why isn't Mark Lamont Hill still at CNN? Like the ways in which Angela Davis got rescinded from the Birmingham Center of Justice when she spoke out. Like there are countless examples, particularly of Black people who, when they say free Palestine, or when they start engaging in anti-colonial speech, they lose their jobs are lost, and whether or not we hear from them ever again, right? Like all of a sudden it's into the other sphere. And this is just folks who have a level of class privilege, right? We're not looking at, like when we look at the Uhuru Like we're looking at precisely what we're seeing right now is a state repression. Like the system is just coming down on folks. And so, yeah, listening to that last segment, thinking about it in the context of what's happening right now in Palestine, and even the ways in which, like when we think about the resolutions going on right now and how they're just like, I think I was at my city council meeting yesterday, and there was more, and we're trying to pass a resolution on
Tell us
ceasefire.
that. Yeah, take a beat, Myrna, right? Because you just
Okay,
can't, you
sorry,
just jumped
sorry,
in.
yes.
It's all
Go ahead,
good.
go ahead.
I want you to reintroduce yourself to our audience, right?
Okay.
Tell us where you are, and we're looking forward to Khaled, because Khaled is really representing something that we really want to lift up, because we're gonna have this ongoing discussion on Gaza, because that solidarity is the order of the day for
That's
sure.
right. That's right. Thank you so much. So anyway, my name is Myrna Morales, or Dr. Myrna Morales. I have a PhD in libraries and information science. I've been looking at one of the issues that I've been looking at in libraries, particularly, is the ways in which Palestinian information is silenced, particularly within the U.S. academic library sphere and the U.S. public library spheres. And so here we have Khaled Farrag, who is co-founder of Food, which is a Palestinian movement that works on withdrawing compliance to the Israeli military industrial complex, and also Grassroots which is a platform for strategizing and organizing within the Jerusalem community. So, Khaled, I'm going to pass it over to you because otherwise I'm just going to keep talking. And if you can begin, particularly with where you are right now and what have you been seeing?
Well, thank you, Mirna. Thank you, guys, for having me and having
Welcome,
our.
Khaled.
I'm happy to be here and have this good opportunity to get our voices and what we see also to these communities that have been a good partner and growing partner of the Palestinians before this war, but we can see it much clearly and strongly now. So it's a good place in that sense, at least as we feel it in here in Palestine. So for me, it's a bit weird because I just actually came back from New York after being there for a year, and the war started while I was still there, and it's been a different experience experiencing a war back home while you're not there. So it started with that, and landing back here, knowing after almost 3 months of the ongoing massacre that's happening in Gaza, that people haven't been able to speak up here, especially in the places we call the 1948 occupied Palestine, where Palestinians actually are Israeli citizens. They hold the Israeli citizenship, and I've heard a bit from the previous discussion, and it is about silencing. It's about persecution of activists here. Not only not to criticize the war, but not like even showing solidarity to children in Gaza is perceived as supporting Hamas. That's like the first and immediate reaction. Your solidarity, your activism, your protesting is portrayed as in the Israeli media, in the Israeli by the Israeli authorities, and of course in the public as well. The persecution is not, as I said, not only by the authorities who are at this point, even before the war, very anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab to begin with power over the police and the national security, as the office is called, is in the hands of Ben Gvir, which is probably the most radical, fascist, right-wing minister at this point, not only member of the parliament, member of the Knesset. So his agenda was already filled with persecution to Arabs, negligence of the social life there. The crime rates in the Palestinian community inside Israel has peaked like it never did before. Just before the war, it broke the records of the previous years in cases of murder and so on. And crime has been actually ruling the streets, and the police hasn't really been doing anything about it, only failing again and again in dealing with organized crimes on those streets. And everyone was feeling already at that point without safe space from the criminals and from
You're
the.
talking about crime in Jerusalem.
Sorry?
Now I want to put this on the map. You talking about a question now that compounds what we're already talking about, right? You talking about Jerusalem, one of the holy cities of the world, is
Yeah,
going through all of that.
actually, Jerusalem is one level worse because Jerusalem is an occupied, still considered occupied territory, East Jerusalem, or the eastern part of Jerusalem, as we say. I'm talking about inside the recognized state of Israel, where 2 million Palestinians live with Israeli citizenship. In Jerusalem, I would say it's worse. People there have no citizenship, not even that protection in the law. So they have temporary residential status, something like a green card that can be also revoked. It is part of the tools that Israel uses also to expel people from the city. In it's weird to say that, but in normal days, not when there's a war. So imagine that. You can imagine that now in the times of war, Jerusalem is targeted, attacked, oppressed more than inside Israel, and more or less like the West Bank. I think you guys also hear that the West Bank hasn't been quiet, and over 300 people were killed there. People are being assassinated in hospitals, like in commando movies, actually. And it is an area that Israel actually, long before the war, controls fully. So it's not as if they have to all of a sudden find those terrorists, as they would say, and remove that danger, as they say in their media. It's something they've have always had access to, these areas in the West Bank and Jerusalem. So it's just intensified pressure on these areas to make them engage part of the war on Gaza, but in their own terms, not in the terms of Palestinian. It's more of a beforehand actions. What's happening in the West Bank? It's dismantling any infrastructure, any organizing that might become resistance and in support of Gaza at this moment, but in general as well.
Catch your breath, because I want to just keep this real basic for a moment, right? And we'll go into the work of your organizations, right? But what does this mean for you, brother? What does this mean for you in your family? What is happening in terms of how all of this violence is impacting in your family's life? Tell us that. I want the human factor always up front when we have these conversations.
That's a good question because, as I said, there are a few smaller subcontexts here in Palestine, and each of them has its own story that's happening right now in light of what's happening in Gaza. So, for example, my family that lives in the north, so it's closer to what's happening on the Lebanese borders, with the ongoing retaliation between Hezbollah and Israel, keeping it on some sort of measured, controlled flame at the moment. But Of course, we know it can erupt and escalate at any moment, which means, again, many rocks coming in this area, basically. So there's that fear, and the direct fear for your family's security. It was also for me the first time I experienced it while being away most of the war, and coming back, find a totally new reality. We haven't been in this situation before. It has been difficult times in the past, and even stronger wars here with Hezbollah, the latest in 2006, the second Lebanese war. But the atmosphere is different. You know who agrees with you, who shares your opinion, who shares your criticism and resistance to what is Israel doing, and you might speak with that person openly about it. But if you are with someone who might not feel fully the same way, the conversation is avoided. In most cases, everyone doesn't want to fight with others over politics that's not happening right now on the ground yet. So there's this feel of avoiding the conversation between people who don't agree. It's fragmenting in the community in a passive way that you can't do much about it, because even if you feel strong enough and courageous enough to open the conversation, uh, it's not because they don't want to have the conversation. People are afraid to have the conversation, also because of the authorities' intimidation, but also because of the risk of losing the community, fragmenting the community because of the uh, dispute is there. People here are receiving the information differently. If you're watching the Israeli mainstream media, you're getting a whole different picture from the people who are abroad. And I was lucky enough to be abroad to see it from more than one angle right away, and know more or less where the truth lies, because the misinformation is very much controlling how the people are thinking here, and how they're deciding to take a stand or not, or just be afraid and quiet, basically.
Hmm. Now, tell us about the organizations, right? And what they're actually doing, and how that work is so critically important at this critical hour. Myrna, you jumping? This is you curated this conversation.
Sure, sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I what.
Where
Okay,
are you? You at a party somewhere?
I'm at the cafe, so making sure that my internet don't go down. Um, but yeah, so Khaled, it'd be really great if you talked about, like, I think one of the points when you're talking about the human factor, I think like you being a Druze male, right? Like a Druze male, and and talking about what that means, right? Like, what are the strategies and the tactics that the Israeli government has imposed upon minorities within the Palestinian, religious minorities within the Palestinian community, right? And then maybe, and then we could start talking about Udfud, the the reason why we're withdrawing compliance within the military industrial complex.
Sure. I would say that's a bit a better way to start talking about what I'm doing, because it's more relevant to what I've been describing right now in terms of the atmosphere here in Palestine, in the different localities also of Palestine. So it is the way that Israel wants to deal with the Palestinian community. It does want to fragment the communities in a way that each is occupied in his own occupation that is imposed by Israel in different ways. Uh, And that was a strategy that started already in 1948 during the Nakba and afterwards. So the Druze community is a smaller community in the Palestinian Arab community that managed to stay to survive the 1948 Nakba, and the Israeli nationality or passport basically was imposed on it. So that's the Druze are part of the 2 million Palestinians who live in Israel today. They are small, they're only 100,000, but they were one of the groups that Israel chose to impose the military service on the male Druze, when they turn 18 after they graduate high school. And only them of between the Palestinians who, as we said, remained in Palestine after 1948 and became Israeli citizen. So choosing them and relieving the other Palestinians from the compulsory service in the Israeli army was, of course, part of the strategy of fragmenting the Palestinian community, and not only by this act, but also in the way they designed the curriculums in schools for each community, all manipulated in a way that would serve the narrative that Israel wants to promote about the history of these communities in this place, the history of the relations with the Jewish minority that was here before. It only shows the fact that would help grow that narrative and, of course, hide and silence the Palestinian narrative around these communities. Of course, the Palestinian Jews mostly resisted this joining the Israeli army. It was, of course, at that point, only 8 years after the Nakba that this was imposed. So everyone was still feeling Palestinian and feeling that he belongs to the Palestinian community. And Israel wanted to change that. So most of the people refused at that time, but with many tools and many policies that Israel put in place, again, brainwashing in high schools, in schools, militarizing the environment, the surroundings, and controlling the meetings, where, for example, Druze students would only meet Jewish students who would also be soldiers later on, and create that connection while preventing it the other way around, the meeting between Druze and the rest of the Arabs who are Christians or Muslims and so on. Basically, that led to a situation where I would say at least half of the Druze males go to the army, mostly because they don't know they can not go, can resist, can be objectors, and it is legal to do so. Again, because they are indoctrinized through all of their childhood to become a soldier when they turn 18. So they just don't know better. And that's the role that we...
That is, I just have to, let me just let you catch your breath for a minute. That is
Sure.
an untold story there, but there's so much in the playbook of settler colonialism.
Exactly.
It's an important, I mean, you know, from our Buffalo Soldier tradition right on up until you know, what we had to deal with in the Vietnam War, and now they call it the economic draft, right? That is so, and that story is not told. So I'm glad you're sharing that, right? So continue your thought, but I just wanted to insert that dimension for our audience, because I want them to see the continuum of that and how that is playing out in the settler colonial spaces that we're supposed to know that is here.
Exactly. And yeah, so later on, that's what led a group of us objectors and other activists to lead or basically to found a movement called Urfud. Urfud means refuse. And it's a Palestinian movement, not only Druze movement, even though its main and first goal was to demand dropping this compulsory service of the Druze males, because again, they're the only Palestinians who have that over their heads. And that totally separated the Druze community from the rest of the Palestinian community, basically, both in the 1948 areas and even worse in the West Bank and Gaza, where Druze and Palestinians meet as soldier and a person who lives under the occupation of that soldier. So that created a huge divide, but not only, it's created a stereotype about the Druze as mercenaries, as traitors to their own origins and history. And that's the situation, the other situation the movement wanted to tackle and change eventually. So in 2014, we started this movement. Mostly, my personal reason was mostly because in 1999, when I refused to join the army, out of protest, out of belonging to the other side, basically, and not wanting to find my own people, I had no movement to take my story and make use of it, promote the whole case with it. So we wanted that address to be available to the many objectors who go and do it alone at that point, sometimes facing prison time in military prison, and having lots of pressure, both from the authorities, from the system, and sometimes from their own community that doesn't think the same way they do. So the movement gives that support by providing lawyers for the legal procedures and mental support to the objector and his family and surrounding, to steadfast the journey, the hard journey that usually he goes through to get rid of the army service there. But the movement in general is an militarization of the whole community that is fully militarized, either by force, being the occupation, or by occupying the mind of the citizens in Israel, both the Palestinians and the Israelis, to think in one way, to see one reality the way they want to show it, and that there's only one true narrative. And you really have to explore and research and be activist and organize to really shed off these lies that you've been grown on for years and years, to discover your true identity, your true history, and build a new narrative that reflects your own truth.
Let me ask you this, and I appreciate what you're sharing with us. You're sharing us an untold story of the Palestinian question, and also needs to certainly be uplifted and appreciated, right? Now, one of the vantage points that you're laying out is a vantage point of the Palestinian within the Israeli state as we know it, right? Here, with the mass emergence of the Palestinian Solidarity Movement, one of the voices that has emerged in those ranks has been Jewish Voices for Peace, right? Folks who are Jewish, but who are not Zionists, right, and who are about mass direct action, right, to dramatize the fact that they're not Zionists and that Zionism is wrong, right? What are you seeing within the Israeli state in terms of the emergence of a divide within their ranks? Now we know the Netanyahu's and his crew is their right wing on steroids, right? but do we see at all, because this is certainly not going to get play in U.S. media? Do you see at all the emergence of a Jewish left or a Jewish dissent movement challenging the Jewish state and the authorities of the Jewish state and what it is that they're doing? They have basically totally scrapped the whole question of a two-state solution, and that's putting it mildly, right? Making Nakba look, which was a mass displacement of over 700,000 people, you know, almost 2 million are already being displaced by virtue of what's happening in Gaza, not to mention thousands of being killed, with more women and children being killed than ever, right? Are you seeing within the Israeli state the emergence of a Israeli peace movement, to put it mildly, to challenge how things are going inside that particular paradigm?
Uh, yes, and to be totally frank, there has always been smaller at times, louder at other times, and they've been there. There are also anti-Zionist Jews in Israel. There are maybe not anti-Zionist, but like I would say neo-Zionist, in a way that there are different levels in the Israeli left, but there is a left, and there has been a left that was in different levels in solidarity with the Palestinians who are living under occupation. Uh, the classical Zionist left is what has been destroyed, I would say, over the last 2 decades, where we see one of the biggest parties, the Labour Party, the one that actually founded the State of Israel in 1948, totally disappearing. Now is the smallest party in the Israeli parliament, and it is predicted to totally dissolve by the next elections. Meretz, the more left party that didn't even make it in the last election, is also on the edge of not succeeding in the next election. So when you're talking about Jewish Israeli resistance to the situation, it has always been there. It's mostly smaller, unfortunately, because it's also persecuted in the Israeli community. And those voices have been quieted and persecuted, just like the Palestinians, 1948 Arabs in Israel. We saw cases of a teacher who spoke about being simply being against the occupation, who has been arrested immediately, persecuted, and now, even if after he was found not guilty of any crime and released, he's being basically abolished by his own community. His students are not allowing him back into school. His students that he was their teacher, and he had to leave his school and so on. We hear about more cases of people like that who have the courage to speak up, but they do face consequences that are severe at this point, because of the focus of everyone, basically every different kind of population inside the Israeli Jewish population, being focused about the kidnapped, the ending of Hamas, and nothing else matters, where they don't want to see the other realities, basically. That was the situation, I would say, over the first 3 months. Now we're starting to see more protests, people appealing to the higher court because the police wouldn't allow their protest, wouldn't give it license. So the higher court has to make those protests allowed by the police. So we saw a few in Tel Aviv and Haifa. They are brutally or treated brutally, unlike the protests that are
Mhm. Yeah.
kidnapped and so on. They're not covered as much in the media, so I understand that they don't reach also the international media as much. They are there, but they're still in an atmosphere of persecution and terrorizing that doesn't allow them to be louder, I guess, at this point still, unfortunately.
I'm ready
So
to go ahead.
yeah, just because I just because I want to keep this particular chain around, or this particular connection around what's happening with Uhuru, right? What happens when the crisis moment is perceived to be over, and then the state starts to do the work. And I think, Khaled, I would love to, if you could expand, like, if we ever get to a ceasefire, right? Like just a ceasefire, we're not talking about the humanitarian aid, right? Or the release of political prisoners, or the release of the political prisoners and hostages, and unrestricted humanitarian aid, i.e., to invest back in Palestine. So, like, what does it mean for the occupation, or what are some of the tactics in which the state continues to imbue or will imbue on the community, on the Palestinian community, when when less eyes are on the situation?
So I would say it's more severe when we think about the West Bank because that's where settlers have been armed with American arms, by the way, by Ben Gvir, uh, on the pretext that they need to, defend their settlements, their outposts that are on Palestinian lands in the West Bank because of the tension that has been rising because of the situation. But what that really meant in reality is that these settlers have taken the law, like they usually do, into their own hands, and they have killed many Palestinians, and they've been terrorizing the villagers. A few communities, Bedouin communities and distant communities, had to totally evict and leave with where they've been living in for decades. That's one example of what else is happening behind the scenes of what's happening in Gaza. In the inside the 1948 areas, it's been persecution, and the quieting happened quite fast because on the first couple of days after October 7th, the persecution, the brutalizing of any free speech against what Israel is starting to retaliate and do in Gaza was met with brutal arrests, losing jobs, firing people for posts they even had posted before the war started, now being persecuted for being in solidarity with their Palestinian identity and their Palestinian nation, basically, even beforehand. Lots of students in universities have been expelled and are put on like disciplinary committees and if not expelled, at least facing penalties that harm their academic career and so on. Um and people are afraid to speak Arabic in cities, that in mixed cities, in places where it's mostly Jewish people, because they read anger that is uncontrolled, that is asking for vengeance, and that anyone can be a target for not being quiet, for not fully supporting what Israel is doing at this moment, because there's no question about it. It's a justified war. Israel is defending itself. You can't think otherwise, and if you do, you are supporting the enemy. That's the atmosphere on the street. And as I said, not only against the Arabs, but also against even Jewish Israelis who think differently and want to speak against it.
As we begin to wind down, several things. Now you're in New York now.
No, I'm back home,
You're back.
visit the family, and take a small vacation, and also to be here and feel it closely, and the same way people are feeling it here. Basically, that's what's most important for me.
Okay. Okay. What would you say to folks wanting to engage in the matter of solidarity at this moment? How to help the work of your organization, right, and then the broader work of solidarity at this particular moment. What would you say to folks who are asking that basic question?
Well, I think mostly people are on the right track. The organizing, the solidarity that's happening is unprecedented, and that definitely indicates that there's a growth that happened in terms of wanting to learn, education that's happening around, connections of struggles, the linking between what black folks are facing on the streets in the US and what's happening in the West Bank and the policing in Jerusalem and so on. All of that is in the right direction. What needs to make it or to take it to the next level is steadfastness, is resilience. Just like, I mean, the war will end hopefully sooner than later, but its effects will stay long time with the Palestinians, mostly with the Palestinians in Gaza, obviously, but it did change things, and those things shouldn't be changed back. They need to keep going in that new direction by keeping the education happening, the solidarity, the radical work, action, JVP, like you mentioned, and others. It needs to keep that statement alive that it can't go backwards. It's a new reality, not only for Palestinians in Palestine, but it's a new reality of how we organize, how we learn, how we come together and work together, despite the divisions and the segregation that governments and systems and colonialism has been trying to keep us inside. So not much beyond what's already happening, just resilience and endurance of the difficult times that we're still going through, and then really build up work on the grounds that have been built.
Mm-hmm. Myrna, jump in.
Yeah. So I think in like one of the things that me and Khaled were talking about is right, like being able to invest within and have a level of resilience. Is like, how does one engage with having resilience within the context of that particular type of turmoil, right? Like we see on a daily, I guess, the level of traumatization that happens within that community, even in the context of war. um, is there a possibility for healing to happen in a way that it just doesn't, it just propagates, right? Like it just continues to stay propagate. And I guess what I mean by saying that it continues to propagate, that the that that there isn't a war, right? I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned is that for every one Palestinian, for every one Israeli that is assaulted by 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 Palestinians, that there's like 10 Palestinians that the Israeli government comes after and ends up killing. And so like thinking, and so I guess the last and the final question is like, how can we begin making that space? How do we begin making that space here in the US? Like, right, like there's clearly communities, even like we heard earlier from the Uhuru community, there are clearly communities, Black communities, that haven't had the space for healing. That's why the question of reparation is absolutely critical and important that we engage in intelligently. And when I mean intelligently, I'm talking about it from the ground up. I'm not talking about it from like what we've seen progressives engage with. I'm talking about it, what does it mean on a local level to have reparations within and atone for the assault that we did in the Black community here, which is heavily brutal when compared to perhaps the rest of the world, but we don't need to compare. So I guess that question is, how do we engage, or how do we begin to build, or how would the Palestinian people begin to build a resiliency after this fact, after the war?
Well, it's a bit sad to say it, but Palestinians, maybe this is the most shocking, long, and bigger in scale in terms of casualties war, but it's not far from things that Palestinians have endured and survived in the past. The casualties number is, of course, way higher, but the damage to infrastructure, the damage to communities, the damage to livelihood has been wrecked like this before, especially in Gaza, of course. And Palestinians have, I don't know if it's an internal mechanism that they've developed and had to learn to teach to the new generation, and it just keeps going. But they will survive, and it will take a long time for them to get to a better livelihood than what at least they were in before the war, which is at least being not under a siege, not encaged in the box or the open air box that is Gaza. So for Palestinian, it's they realize, they already internalized that there's a long process, there's a long way to go, and to steadfast in the coming years after this particular war. But this time, I think the lack of trust that they have to the international community, the international instruments, has been crucial, unlike other times, and that means they will need to find new allies that already are emerging, like we see in the streets. So it's the movements, it's the people directly that need to be there for the Palestinians in this process, in rebuilding, in getting to some normalcy once again. At least the same way they knew it, to keep resisting for their final liberation as people. So I think,
As such, right on that point,
Mhm.
it is absolutely on point and natural for us to see an emergence of a Palestinian reparations movement as we reach that point that you just described. Once we get to that point where we actually break ground for Palestinian self-determination, the harm that has not been addressed at all for a long time, right? At the hands of Israel, is the Israeli state, and at the hands of the United States and Britain in particular, in supplying the Israeli state, is a very real question that I think the international community is always prepared to address. Right. So there, for all of the emergence of the international flowering of the Palestinian solidarity movement that we are rightfully seeing, There are places to go that we haven't gotten to yet, right? To address the question of repair. And that's what reparations is about. It's about addressing and repairing the harm of the violence of oppression. So there is a place to go. And I say this too because there's another solidarity voice in the international arena that is always very important to what I have been doing in terms of my own international solidarity work. The incredible example of the Cuban Revolution and their resilience, right? In a very Che-centered way, Che and the Cuban Revolution and in the course of fighting for power and for self-determination back in those days, Che being the doctor, right? People forget that Che Guevara was a doctor, right? And building those people's medical cadres in the thick of the fight for taking power, right? In other words, we have to become the healing we seek,
Exactly.
right? And we have to build that into the fight, right? And the resilience of the Palestinian people has been incredible so far. And of course, we believe in the end that the forces of justice will ultimately align for the oppressed, and the oppressed will be victorious. I just had to throw that in. The question.
Anxiety.
That's right. They don't call
Anxiety.
you back. Go ahead, Donna.
No, go ahead. I just didn't want us to leave out of this conversation, um, and remembering that war has casualties and casualties um, of our precious souls, people that we're losing, young, old, and this war is just taken, from our youngest, our toddlers, our babies, to the elder. But more recently, we've seen 3 soldiers that we lost, and one of them was originally right here from New Jersey, and looking at their faces, my God, you think, I don't know, but to see babies, they were like so young. They look at their faces, it was just like, wow. And I would beg to say that they were probably in probably their first enlistment. I wonder if they had even finished their first 4 years, their first commitment is what I'm saying. So just it was Sergeant William Jerome Rivers. He was originally from Willingboro, New Jersey. And it was also Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and the young lady is Specialist Brianna Moffett. And so Sanders was 23, Brianna was 24, and Sergeant William Rivers, who was originally from New Jersey, he's probably been in the longest, is 46 years old. So just wanted to say their names.
Well, let's say that in this way, right? As to what Khaled just addressed about the effort to inscript and to isolate, right, a segment of the Palestinian population through recruitment, right, which could have led to which leads to casualties within that particular community when that happens. This is the U.S. side of what that looks like. Some of these young folks are probably in the military as a consequence of the economic draft because of the lack of opportunity. Right? The lack of opportunity here in this country that Black folks face by virtue of our oppression. Right? And their loss needs to be appreciated through that lens. So I wanted to pull that together.
And you're right, because if you ask them the reasons that they probably enlisted in the war, in the military, war probably would not be at the top. Is because I wanted to complete college. There was I couldn't find a job where I can take care of my family, and I knew so you're absolutely right in that. So thank you for putting that in
It's the same thing. It's the same thing in the Puerto Rican community and in Puerto Rico. Like I mean, I think I got this from a lobby, like, so I don't know how trustworthy, but 53% of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico have either served in the military or have family who have served in the military. That's more than half of a population. And so like Urfu to me is
Of a
really,
colonized population.
that's right, more than 500 years of colonization. Um, and so like just being cognizant of time, and thank you so much. So I guess to the founder, Ed Riley, do you want to ask the question?
I do. Obviously, I want to say thank you to Brother Khaled for his bravery
Thank
and coming on the show and obviously sharing. We appreciate that because I think the authenticity of his conversation is one that is empowering because there are a lot of people, particularly here in the United States, that are being oppressed, particularly around solidarity with Palestine and what's going on in Gaza right now. As you know, most of the professors or independent activists who are uh, standing in solidarity or who speak out are also being retaliated against here in America. So that's also happening. The question I wanted to ask is that you know as how much of your ability to go back and forth is being hampered? You said you just got back home after being in the States. Are you able to leave and go back or go and come when you want to, or are they pulling your passport? Is that happening to you?
Not yet. It was my first time coming back since the war started. So I did come back before that a couple of times, but it hasn't been the same situation. But you do have that fear, like I don't know how they will welcome me or not welcome me in the airport when I land there, especially if I'm outspoken, especially if I post things and so on. So far not yet, and I haven't tried to leave yet, but I haven't been hearing about issues in that matter so much, except again. More of the usual and more extreme of the usual, where Palestinians are interrogated, held, intimidated, uh, and so on when they try to come in or leave through any borders, basically.
And I'm not sure if you are aware that I heard recently that there's a segment of the Black church population that has petitioned President Biden to call for a ceasefire. Have you heard that out there?
I did. I'm not sure of the name of the that specific community, but yeah, I think I saw that. Maybe it's also where Mark Lamont Hill, I think, was speaking at that point, if I'm not mistaken, after Biden spoke there, and he gave that powerful speech actually on MLK, I think they. Yeah.
Yeah, so wanted to just make sure that you let the folks know in Palestine that there are some folks in the United States that are standing in solidarity in spite of the threats that are being placed on those folks who would stand up, right? Because I think at the end of the day, you know, Dr. King said an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, right? So we see that, we see what's going on there, and we want to make sure that you know that anytime that you want to come and report back to us, clearly what's going on the ground, unfiltered, you're more than welcome to come here. There's a place for you to do that, and we'd love to be able to uh, make sure that you let the folks know that you're in communication with that this is an open platform for us to be able to get that side of the story out there.
For sure. Thank you for that. And I just want to tell you that actually the voices from the word from your communities are reaching Palestinians, and it is playing an important role in their resilience, even though you might not know it, even to people in Gaza as well, through us, through different tools. So it is important, and it is reaching and making an impact.
Thank you.
And Khalid, we have one last question that we like to ask all of our you're smiling. Did you get a hint? We
Lighting it
ask
up real
everyone that
quick.
comes on our show. And this is a hip hop political show. And we've had a great political discussion. Now we're going to talk about hip hop. When you're out there doing the work, or when you are in places and you're you need some music to soothe your soul, is there a hip hop artist, individual or group, that you can tune to that will give you what you need at any given moment?
For sure. I mean, yeah, Myrna did cheat a bit, and I think also because she knows I'm not an expert in hip hop. I love hip hop from what I know, but I'm not someone who would represent hip hop.
Palestinian hip hop is hot.
It is, and hip hop in Palestine is a big thing. It's been growing. I know it here and there, and from good friends that I have that know it well. Uh, so I will mention two hip hop artists from Palestine, from two different contexts in Palestine, that tell the stories of their context. The first one is called Shab Jdid, or the new guy, basically, in literally translating his the way he calls himself, who is from the line Jerusalem, West Bank, lives on that crossing and describes the reality, the daily reality Palestinians live crossing through the Kalandia checkpoint and living in Jerusalem and facing the occupation in that way. The other guy is called Tamer Nafar, and he has a group called DAM. He's one of the pioneers of Palestinian hip hop. He is from Lid, which is inside the 1948 areas, and he talks more about the situation inside that Palestinian community, and he's been doing that for a couple of decades and doing a good job at it. So I would recommend those two guys. And the names do recognize most of the names that's been written here: Synapting and 47 Soul. Dabur is also someone who collaborates a lot with Shab Jdid. That's the good scene of hip hop in Palestine that you should check out for sure.
Right on, right on. Beautiful, beautiful. Donna dropping it in there. I see you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And that's some interesting. And that's and as the celebration of 50 years or more of hip hop, that says a lot, because for those who thought hip hop was a fad that will be gone in a minute, now we're talking about it's reaching shores all over the world. And that is good news. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Good segment. Good segment. A pleasure to have you, beloved.
Good.
Thank you.
Myrna, thank you for that. Good, good stuff.
Yes, Myrna, thank you for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's always an honor to be on this show, and where the connections and where you take it, I think is important for people who are political strategists trying to make an impact, the kind of impact that we need to do. And like y'all have been saying, the conversations you guys have here doesn't happen anywhere else.
Myrna, before
You
you
know,
leave,
I just wanted to say before you say that, Donna Myrna, if you come across any Palestinian women, we'd love to talk to them as well to get their point of view, right, from what's happening under that ground as it relates to women and children. We'd love to hear from them directly.
For sure. Go
and
ahead, Donna.
Myrna, yeah, before you leave, I don't know if I just want to say this while you're still on. We lost a legend. And and he was like a grandfather, when it comes to wisdom, and that's the Black Eagle, Joe Madison. And I wanted to know if you ever had an opportunity to just sit down and listen to him, and if not, I'm going to have to tell you, go pull some up, and we'll talk about it going forward. But he had a battle with prostate cancer. Um, but the Black Eagle, the date says 131 or 2 when he passed, but when I got the word before I came on, I just lost it because he is definitely somebody. Our elders, Ed, you keep saying we're losing our elders, and he's some that you just wanted to be around until we turn back to dust. I did not want to lose him. He started on Sirius XM Urban View. He would open up the morning, and him being the eldest of him, he open up with the Black Eagle and close with Al Sharpton, two elders like bookend. And his show went from 6 a.m. to 10 in the morning, and his show was fire all 4 hours. So just wanted to say his name.
Thank you. I'll do my research because I haven't heard.
Yeah, listen, you will be he will get you cussing and fussing. So go ahead. And as a matter of fact, I would get one when he was talking about the war, and I'll send that if I can find that. I'll send it to you. Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Right.
Have a great night.
Right on.
Bye, Baba Saeed, and thank
Okay.
you, Madam Donna.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Right on, Ron.
Yep. So we're waiting on the congressman. He's supposed to be coming up. I don't know what happened to DJ Rhino. I did text him. So
yeah, he didn't have the link. I just sent it to him, so he's.
That's why you put the link in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why. So had y'all heard about Joe Madison?
No, I hadn't. Actually, I hadn't.
Whew,
yeah,
I just was like,
I woke up at 2:00 in the morning and I saw a post by Tamika, and she had posted it because apparently the family had issued a statement yesterday on shortly after he had passed, and of course TV1 had posted something on it as well. So I woke up at 2:00 in the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. Totally.
Yeah, and remember you was following him and you were actually worried that. Remember he was fasting, and you were really worried. Should he be doing?
Yeah.
And Chairman, we talked to Chairman about that, and I know Congressman Payne. Every time I would have the opportunity to see Mr. Madison, he would fuss with me, and I'll tell him tell me to go back and fuss with Congressman Payne. Tell him he better get down to my show. His father always was at my show. He better get down here, So he was a Phi Beta.
Where did he broadcast from? What was
prostate cancer.
No. I know. No, where did he broadcast from?
Oh, Sirius XM, the Urban View station.
No, where?
He would. So here's the interesting thing. He lived in the DC area,
right?
So he generally broadcasted out of the DC area, but in Black August, he would take his staff up to Martha's Vineyard, and they would broadcast out of Martha's Vineyard for a week, and then occasionally, I believe, he has children that he's from the Detroit area, Flint, I believe, but he his children, I believe, live in California, and he sometimes broadcasted from the West Coast as well. But his home base was in Washington D.C. Urban Sirius XM, they have a station in DC and a station in New York, and he would do it out of the DC station.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think he's one of the first really to go over to Sirius XM, wasn't he?
Black, and him and Karen. Yeah, him and Karen Hunter. Here's Congressman Payne. We're talking about Joe Madison, boss. How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. Don't make me cry. I mean,
I
I was
know. I was just
devastated.
telling how he would every time I would see him and I would mention your name, he would make me come back and fuss at you
You know,
and tell him like,
yeah, and you
Did
know,
you, hey, Congressman, did you ever get that into the show? Since he told Donna to make sure you get
yeah, yeah.
I'm about to drop my head, man.
there.
You know, and to be honest, you know, it's not something I'm proud of. That great pioneer, that strong black man, asked me to be on his show for 10 years, and I never made it.
He would say,
Wow.
"Who he think he is?" He would. It was such a laughing way, and that I don't. He said, "I don't." Because he said, if I gotta come get him, he ain't gonna like the way I come get him. He
Yeah,
would be and send me back with messages, but he was,
and he loved
uh,
my father.
yeah,
Oh,
his
yeah,
father,
he loved
yeah,
my
senior
father.
was always on the show.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I've been a little derelict in my responsibilities, and I don't feel good about it right now. And there's no reason I should not have been on that great man's show. And I mean, for him to want me, to ask me to be on his show, and I should have showed a bit more respect in
I think
honoring that request.
I think we always think we have a lot of time, and it's
It's true.
important that we take
Yep.
time when it's calling on us. Because was he with your father when they went over, and your father was almost caught up in that conflict in Africa? Was he with that delegation with them?
I don't think so, but I think he had him on to talk about it after it happened. You remember back in the Sudan when those they made a movie about a Black Hawk Down, and those American soldiers got dragged through the town. I don't know if you remember that, Ed, or say when
When? What year is this?
Oh
Help me
yeah.
out.
American soldiers got dragged through the town in Sudan. They got caught
Oh,
when the helicopter went down in the middle of town.
Somalia.
Somalia, I'm sorry, not Sudan,
Yes.
Somalia.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, thank you, sir. And you know, don't you know my father was going around that same corner the week before those soldiers
No
got
kidding.
killed?
No kidding.
Yep. And so he always remembered that, and you know, his work in Somalia. But a year or two later, my father was back there and in Mogadishu, and the pirates, the people, some of the warlords that were in power. You know, as much as my father was loved in Africa, he was despised in some quarters as well, because he did not care um, whether you were the government or the rebels. It depended on which side you were with the people. If you were with the people, then he was with you. If you were the rebels and you were with the people, he was with you. If you were the government and you were the people, he was with you. It was a matter of where the people stood, where he stood. And so he was in Mogadishu, and as he was leaving, they took several. They had some rockets that they shot at his plane as he was leaving the airport, and it was quite a situation. And you know, I got a call from the State Department to explain what had happened. My father didn't even realize what had happened. You know, they were shooting at the plane as he lifted off, and you know, he didn't realize until he landed that you know, they attempted to shoot him out of the sky. And so you know, Mr. Madison always had a great deal of respect for my father and the things that he you know, he stood for with respect to the motherland, to the continent. And so I really, you know, guys, I'm really not kidding. There's no reason I should not have been on that great man's show.
Black Eagle. He was He was,
You
and
can't change that now, beloved. We just have to celebrate the life that brother lived. Right. But
yeah.
let me give you another Somalia moment from around that time to bring you back to Rutgers Newark. Yeah, dig this. When I was here at Rutgers Newark, we had a guy in Africana Studies named Saeed Samatar, right? A Somali scholar who was the expert on the Horn of Africa and that whole history. Did a hell of a book on the a great Somali anti-colonial rebel named Muhammad bin Abdullah, or who was referred to as the Mad Mullah because he was taking no prisoners in his fight to free Somalia from the Italian incursion back in those days, who somehow got himself mixed up in what the State Department needed to use to try and impose leadership on a very, a space that was in a whole lot of discord during that. Somalia was in a really bad space, and they literally tried to drop him into Somalia and see if they can build something around him very quickly to create a leader that they can control.
Right.
But as soon as they put him down, they had to bring his behind right because that was a very ungovernable moment, to put it mildly.
Wow.
In the history of the Horn back then, that was a really tough time.
That's deep. That's
deep.
Yeah.
Your father was lucky. Your father was lucky.
Yeah.
That's
And Congressman, he did speak a lot. Going back to Joe Madison, it says that prostate cancer was the cause. And I know you've written legislation around colon cancer, and this CBS News on Gail King, they had a whole presentation. I thought about your legislation about colon cancer. And now, so you know how we sit here and listen, and the intent of your legislation and what you put in there and what should happen. And they had a doctor on there, and he was they brought him on to discuss colon cancer, and he said that if colon cancer is in your family, you should not be getting tested at 50. You should do it 10 years earlier. So I was like, look at Congressman Payne's legislation, when you hear that and seeing, the legislation going from a thought to action and coming out of a doctor's mouth. And he was saying, if it's in your family and you're getting tested at 50, you're testing way too late.
Yep.
And the importance of it, and how if you get tested early, it's something that you can prevent and you can live on,
to that point, Donnie,
Congressman, hold on before you go. We gotta give you the proper introduction.
Okay.
Welcome. Hey, listen, welcome.
We jump right in. I'm sorry.
Right in. We get to give him the proper introduction. Welcome to the Payne Report with Congressman Donald M. Payne Jr. Go ahead, Congressman. We
don't need those formalities. We got right down to what we need to do. That's right. But hey, we could have ended with that. Oh, that was Congressman Payne. If they didn't know, that was Congressman Payne for the last hour.
No, I just need to let them know we skipped it. Now we're into the Payne Report because your time kind of sick. So that this is still a Payne Report, y'all.
All right, I hear you. Yeah, but we really have to pay attention. That's why I bring Dr. Faccaretti on.
Yep.
And amputations and diabetes and colorectal cancer obviously is what my father succumbed to, so it became a mission for me to try to spread the word and have African American men understand that this silent killer is no reason for us to be taken out. There'd be a lot of other things that could take us out. There's no reason that colon cancer is one of them if you do what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Now, and Donna, thank you for that. really what made me come to that conclusion was basically, in the experience that I was having, learning and researching about it, those numbers set up like you have to go at 50. That's for the majority population. You got to remember, they aren't really using those numbers, and we have to do better in allowing ourselves to be in these trials so they can see how different illnesses impact African Americans to a difference and a detriment that they might not realize because they haven't had the opportunity to have people go through trials and see that there is a difference in African Americans to the majority population. So based on the information that I kept learning about, I just finally started telling them, I said, Black men need to go at 40. In fact, y'all need to start checking at 35 because it is just ravaging our population at an earlier age. And then, then the federal government finally caught up with me and said, you should start checking at 40. So, thank you for that, Donna. And that was just really my research and me learning about, talking to different brothers and learning about this, that dreaded disease. And, I've gone on to be very fortunate into trying to make a difference in that area. And prostate has come along, and I'm trying to do the same thing there. To the same degree, and it's pretty interesting. Once you do something along those lines, people start seeking you out. As much work as I've done in colorectal cancer, I've done just as much in breast cancer, because now the breast cancer people are coming to me to advocate for them as well.
Right.
Prostate, testicular cancer. I'm like the go-to guy now in the African American community, for the different cancers. Yeah. And it all came out of the colorectal experience.
It ain't a bad thing.
No, yes, sir. And I try to honor it to the degree that I can.
And the amputation too. Don't leave that one out. The
amputations,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these issues are around personal experiences. Colorectal is because of my father. The amputations is because of what I'm going through with diabetes. In fact, not to spread bad news, but I got another foot ulcer that I'm fighting all over again. So I'm back to square one again.
Wow,
so pray for me. Yeah, trying to keep this putting these toes on here. So
that's right.
I'm back in the boot. So
yeah, you've been a busy week. You've been on that floor. Is it every day?
Yeah, every day. I've actually become the messaging member for the Democrats, and I go to the floor every day with the different issues that we're fighting for, and so I actually, since the year started, I think I've missed 4 days speaking on the floor in the House of Representatives. So I got the John Lewis Award about 2-3 weeks ago for my consistency and effectiveness in messaging. So what an honor, man. Whoa.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Congratulations. We need a picture of that so we can post it on the page, man.
Okay.
We gotta get the Jersey John Lewis bill passed in Jersey.
How about that? Definitely.
Well, since the congressman got the award, we should start campaigning for it.
That's right.
We get it done. Our congressman got the award now. Let's campaign a little harder in New Jersey.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to keep. How I always say, we start out strong, but we let our efforts dissipate as we move forward, and we got to stay consistent.
Yep.
And and relevant on these matters. We can't let them just, wane in the atmosphere. We got to stay on them.
Yep. So, Congressman,
go ahead, man.
Let me ask you a question. So, I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of what's going on, particularly, with a lot of, African American voters. I don't even want to tell you, we had a guest on here who was saying some crazy things about supporting Donald Trump, right? and Zaid almost lost his mind.
I can imagine.
Zaid jumped
jump through that camera, right? and grab him like, "What's wrong with you? Wake up, snake up."
Zaid said he lost his goddamn mind. I'm out of here. You know how Zaid talk.
I know.
He got his goddamn mind.
Hey, listen, there's only so much Zaid's gonna tolerate.
That's right.
Before Zaid about it, my old age, it ain't working. It's so tough.
Yeah. and Congressman, all that Newark activism come out. Oh, he has his goddamn mind. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? And that was the best thing you could do. But so, Congressman, you hear this right from some of these brothers, and you start to figure out what the hell are they talking about? Like what that they confused about who they're going to vote for based around and Zaid and I, are talking about fascism. I'm like, do they even know what the hell that is?
Man, they can't spell it. They don't know. You know what? And they, all through history, we've had some self-hating, deprecated folks in our community that are just confused. And they look at certain issues and they think that, yeah, wow, you know what? He's on to something. I like what he's saying. Not understanding, he ain't talking about you. He ain't talking about nothing about you that's gonna benefit you. And you're gonna get on the bandwagon and push his agenda?
Yeah.
Man, you're out, like you said, you're out of your cotton picking mind. Makes no sense. Yeah. We down there fighting. They now, their southern border issue is their major thing, and Trump has told them to don't cut a deal to help them at the border because he can use that to win against Biden. So don't you know these Republicans in the House are not trying to rectify the situation at the southern border? The Republicans in the Senate are working with the president and the Democrats to try to come up with a solution. And it's more conservative than we'd like to see. Don't you know none of the House Republicans will buy into it? It's amazing. Because Trump said he needs that to use as something to run on. He doesn't want Biden. They don't want Biden to have a win. So that the country, damn the country, let them suffer. We don't care. We just got to get Trump to win, and Biden can't have any positive thing happen.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. We're in the midst of I don't know if you saw this week. We're
wasting time on the impeachment.
Yeah, on the impeachment of the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Right.
And Constitution raises the issue of, it has to be treason or bribery or high crimes and misdemeanors. And nothing that Mayorkas has done has risen to that level. They're just mad.
He's a test case.
Well, yeah, they can't get to Biden.
If we can knock this one down, who else can we get?
Right.
Because we got the majority.
Well, they can't get to Biden, so that was the ultimate goal. Because tit for tat, we did, and that's what this is. This is like revenge impeachment. Trump got impeached, so now they got to try to impeach somebody on our side. They'd love for it to be Biden. He ain't done nothing that they could even talk about. So they go after his son, and then they go after the Homeland Secretary, because there's absolutely a problem at the southern border, but it doesn't rise to any crimes and misdemeanors. I mean, Mayorkas isn't, if they caught him like getting $1,500 for every person that comes in the country illegally, then we'd have an issue. But he's not profiting in any manner from this. He's not gaining any advantage. He is not treasonous. There's no bribery, and there's no crime or misdemeanor. So why are we here? Just revenge. That's all.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, Congressman. What they do is when they do that, they are raising a lot of money, right? When they do that, because that's like red meat to their base, right? When they start that, it's like let's throw that up in the air and let's start raising more and more money. Right?
We caught Marjorie Taylor Greene raising money off of that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean, because all of you think about it, everything that they do, you scratch your head and say, what? That's just for real? Yeah. And you just see everybody on that side of the ledger. It just seemed like, every time they do that, that gets them riled up and they just want to go hard at everything that sounds insane, right? And you just can't believe it.
Check this out. So the one organization that has a responsibility for bringing these criminals to justice at the southern border, the FBI,
yeah,
she has on her website raising money to fund the FBI T-shirts and hats, and she's selling those on her website. The organization responsible for trying to fix what's the problem is at the border, she's raising money off of them against them every single day. Go figure.
Wow.
Go figure.
Wow. That's just nuts, man.
And I've gotten into another debate, just so y'all know, around the fentanyl issue. Mm-hmm. And they keep talking about they're killing our children with fentanyl. And I'm like kind of saying, excuse me, but why are our children taking all this fentanyl? I mean, there appears to be a supply and demand issue. If all of this fentanyl is coming into the country and we keep losing children to this, don't you think we need to be introspective and look at what's going on with our children and try to get them from taking these illicit drugs? I mean, if they weren't demanding it, the stuff wouldn't be coming in the country the way it is. And if there isn't the opioid issue, which impacted the majority population, they were not interested when it was crack and it was ravaging our community. Now all of a sudden the opioid situation is a humanitarian. It's a medical. It's a problem. We need to be concerned about it. Not when it was crack and ravaging our community.
Yep.
They told us to just say no.
Right.
So I told them the other day in Homeland Security, they should just use the Julie Reagan philosophy and just say no.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, it worked for us, right? Now you don't want it. Just say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing how now this is a medical issue, in the country, as opposed to an illegal drug use issue in this community. So,
yeah, I mean that's absolutely right. But guys, I mean, what are you hearing down in DC as it relates to, who's going to end up as the two primary candidates? Is it going to be Trump and Biden, or are we going to have, a third candidate in this race? What do you think?
It's Trump and Biden. It comes down to Trump and Biden at the end of the day.
Isn't it amazing how Biden is leaving meetings, leaving, he's having to stop by and pay respects to soldiers and then do a press conference about campaigning, and then Trump is leaving a court hearing and he's I mean, it's just so why it's just
Amazing.
the optics of, you're looking at this and it's like, and how he could be still in the
And it's
lead
all
he
right.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's all right. And it's justifiable. And this is amazing. This is a true example of how the rules and the laws in this country are made for us and poor people to keep us in place. Because now here you have a so-called multimillionaire, and he doesn't care anything about the rules, not living by any of them.
No.
Those aren't for him. Those are for us.
Yeah.
And it's manifest itself and it's come out, to really be, what we thought it was. That's for us. They're not really playing by those rules.
Yeah.
Those rules are set up for us to keep us at bay.
I have never heard anyone defending against 91 cases. I've never heard that before. I've never heard that. And I just don't know how you have that much money, right? Like, where you can just stay in court. I mean, that's like you're going to be in court for another, 2 or 3 life terms, right? Like, how can you? I mean, I don't even know. I don't even if a judge can really conjoin all of those cases. I mean, I don't even know if that's possible.
I don't understand how he keeps getting attorneys, these suckers that he don't pay anybody.
Get paid. Yeah,
but they keep defending him, and he ain't gonna pay him.
Yeah,
everybody knows you ain't getting paid. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, maybe just so that they can say that they was once a Trump attorney. I don't hold on.
That's all they can say because they ain't getting paid.
Yeah.
And what's the woman who won a defamation case, and then she got more money because he was in court tweeting, just defaming her more,
right?
Than why he was. It was
right.
crazy.
So she wins in court, and he continues to defame her. So she takes him back to court, and she gets $83 million.
Yeah,
$83 million.
Yeah, and here's the thing. From what I understand, he actually has to put up a major amount of that money to get a bond, right? Just so the money can sit there, just in case if he loses the appeal, right? But that's amazing that he has that much money to just sit there, and then he got other. Remember,
it's the real estate,
right? He got the one coming up in New York too. That's going to happen with Letitia James,
right?
And I'm like, what is? I mean, these MAGA people willing to just keep funding them to that tune?
Look, the hotel that's down the street from the White House that when he was in office, everybody stayed at. That, and if you were thinking,
I finally went in there. It was the old post office. Beautiful.
Okay.
It's a beautiful place. It really is nice. But I finally went in there after he left office and sold it. I think actually now the majority partnership in the hotel is black.
Okay.
And it's a magnificent place. It really is. But just so y'all know, people out there, I didn't go in there until after he sold it. All right.
Listen, I hope
Trump be no accident.
I hope we see Chocolate City. I hope Chocolate City has somebody good come in there and get that piece of property.
Oh yeah.
So, Congressman Payne, we also a lot has been going on. We lost Dexter King, Dr. King's son, and then we also have Pastor Freddie Haynes being installed as the successor for Rainbow, and just like just thinking of, we're transitioning in a time that our leaders are going on to glory, or they're not in service anymore. And just Rainbow Coalition was synonymous with Jesse Jackson, and now I could imagine what Pastor Freddie Haynes is going to do with it. It's going to be.
Yeah,
So,
you know what? Over the course of time, you know how we all felt about Jesse Jackson and his efforts in this country. Um, I tend to think I might know a little something about some things, but I really didn't realize what the concept of just what Jesse was doing at the time. Jesse was trying to subtract us out of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and then whomever had the best agenda for us, that's who we went with. And that's what the Rainbow Coalition was. He was trying to pull us out, us sit back, and whoever came up with the best agenda for us moving forward, that's who we supported in those efforts. And I didn't, as a young man, I didn't realize what he was doing, but it was genius. It was genius, and I wish more of us had understood the concept at that time.
yeah, and he was rapping while he was doing that. Jesse Jackson, those speeches back from the outhouse to the, to the, yeah, he was. But have you had the opportunity to? I know at the annual legislative conference, Dr. King's the other son will always be there. He spoke at a couple of lunches. But have you had the opportunity to do any work with Dexter King?
I knew Dexter. Dexter and I were more friends than we did engaged in work.
Okay.
We kind of hung out more than the back in the day. But it's unfortunate. That's a family that has a lot of interstrife and a lot of issues that there are like several factions in that family, and Dexter was on one side and Martin III was on another side, and they were had a lot of internal strife, like a lot of families, but because of who their lineage, people like to tend to look at it negatively and point to it. But
he got hit with prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah. There, can you imagine the pressure on those kids with who their father was? Look, I know about pressure from having a parent and being exposed. Can you imagine what the King children went through?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I always I admire Bernice a lot.
Absolutely.
Martin III has been quite visible, and his daughter is trying to assert her voice.
Yeah.
One I always wanted to work with was their oldest daughter, Yolanda. Right, Yoli was
yeah.
Martin and Malcolm never quite got together. Right.
Right.
Yoli as an artist and very much about solidarity, the way we were talking about in our previous segments, right? Really brought that together in her work. She was in a film called Death of a Prophet. I don't know if any of y'all can remember this film. Amiri was in it. The film on Malcolm, right?
Death of a Prophet.
Yeah. Morgan Freeman played Malcolm, and guess who played Betty? Yolanda King.
Wow.
Yeah, she was quite assistant, and she passed quite young, right? It was really heartbreaking because she was the one I really wanted to work with because she was a whole package. She had progressive politics. She was a brilliant artist. She was an actor, But yeah, the family's been through a lot. The family's been through a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's a lot to have the expectation that kids, people want to be people just sometimes, and and to I here in South, the actor Andre Brower lived right here in South Orange,
Yeah.
and
Brilliant,
I remember walking
brilliant
it.
actor.
He was really visible.
Brilliant
He was
actor.
very,
Yeah.
but very. He would be sitting in Starbucks, and I was like, I know who you are, but I'm gonna let you do, you know, like I'm gonna let you read that paper and not. You want to give people their time, and but he was a very he would show up, um at different, he was really a part of the community, and he was, he wasn't an in and out catch a train. He
Yeah.
really spent time in South Orange walking around and
Yeah.
everything.
It was
So,
amazing. I got to see him. You know what he also did as a South Orangean. Um, he um, he he started going to Seton Hall basketball games. So I would
mm,
run into him at Seton Hall basketball games. We're big Pirate
It's
fans.
Seton Hall, man.
Huh?
It's a Seton Hall, man.
There you go. And I still have season tickets to Seton Hall. So, I'm gonna miss the Georgetown game Wednesday. But I was very impressed by that he picked them up and became a fan. But yeah, he was a true piece of in the fabric, interwoven in the fabric of South Orange. He definitely was, and it was amazing him being such a big star. I always wondered, how did he end up in South Orange? But
South Orange is that kind of town. It's close to New York.
South Orange and Montclair have
they are. They got an honest reputation.
a lot of entertainers because of their proximity to New York. And listen, the commute. I was when I worked in the city, I would be on the phone. I would be on the train with Frankie Faison sometime, and Mr. Faison's very approachable. When he brought Luna Stage, when it left Montclair and it came to the West Orange border, I never forget him being at a meeting. Pat from Hands had brought him over to a meeting, and he really was. He would do a project around MLK to teach children how to act, from building a stage to the whole to actually from building the stage up to creating the play to putting the play on. And he would show them how to do it. And he came down, and I remember him, and we wanted to do something like that in Orange. And there's a term, you never negotiate against yourself. And he said, well, this is how much it costs to do that. And when they heard the number, and he said, well, how much can you bring to the table? And I could see the whole group sitting around the table, and they were stuck on, we can't bring that number. And he kept pressing, what number can you bring?
Right.
And so sometimes, we're not listening and everything, but he really, he was just a person that he just wanted to be, just in the community, and he really loved to help the community.
On each of those brothers,
He does love to help the community, even now. Even though he sold Luna Stage, him and his wife are still a part of it, I believe.
Yeah, on each of those brothers, right? Andre Brower, one of his forgotten films. This is early Andre Brower. A couple of days ago was the birthday was Jackie Robinson. He played Jackie Robinson in the court martial of Jackie Robinson.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's a good film, and it's a great Jackie Robinson story that people forget about. Right? Jackie was not just the first to break the color line. Jackie was not going to the back of the bus.
He was not a go along to get along. They don't realize
he was not doing that.
He was not a go along to get along guy. That's how some of it's painted, but that wasn't him.
And then the other Faison, the Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, right? An important film that we just got locally. We just got the Seabrooks Washington bill passed locally. Got the governor to sign it. To get community-led emergency response teams to mental health crisis instead of police coming and killing them. right? But that film shows how those things escalate, and Frankie Faison tore that up. I've always wanted to do a human rights centered film festival dedicated to Malcolm X, and those are two films that are already on my list, right? Because they were two very good films, and they were and both of those were Andre was very early in his. That was the early piece for him. It was a pivotal piece early in his career. But Frankie, that's a pay cut. Do that kind of film.
Right.
That wasn't your typical Hollywood movie. That was a flick about community.
Right. And to that same example of Andre Brower becoming a piece of part of that community, Frankie Faison has always been part of Montclair. He is, he's been living in Montclair for 50, 60 years.
Wow. Okay.
And so, he's a true Montclairite as well. And has always been on the cutting edge of the arts and has supported them throughout his career. So shout out to him too. Definitely.
And
you're always dropping knowledge, brother. I mean, that's what you're here for.
Something. I mean, his head is big, it's hard. Something had to come out of
it. Congressman, you were at Union County College this afternoon?
I was for the opening of the African American History Month. They had a very fine program, and I learned about a project called the 313 Plus Project. There is a cemetery in Elizabeth, New Jersey, that they have found.
It's a black cemetery.
Black cemetery. 381 unmarked graves, and there's a project to erect a they have it now actually. It's about a 24-foot sphere, and it has all the names of those people in the grave and the year that they were buried there. And so it's my second issue that I was embarrassed about. I did not know that this project existed right there in Elizabeth. So I was very embarrassed to be sitting there and listening. But I told this great sister, Dr. Wanda Lundy, who has picked up the mantle and feels our ancestors in her spirit and telling her how to move on this project. And I told her today of my sheer embarrassment of not knowing about this project, and whatever moving forward she needs, she has me now. And, I want to see how I can be helpful to this project. A magnificent work that they've done. And now what they're trying to do is research the different people, the 381 people that were buried there, to kind of bring their stories out. And so it's called the 313 Plus Project. So look it up. They've gone back.
Ishmael has done a lot with that. Salam Ishmael has done a lot with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to join the effort because it's important that we do this. And right there in Elizabeth.
Right.
I mean, amazing.
But that probably exists all over the country, right?
Oh, sure.
Where they got black folks in unmarked graves. And,
absolutely.
We don't know nothing about it. I mean, because we just heard about down in Jackson, Mississippi. Rakia, sent something and said that they found some unmarked graves, over 200 folks in Jackson in the back of a sheriff's building, right? That no one knew about, right? So, but that's how they treated black folks, right?
Right.
They just buried us and went and built on top of it, and didn't care whether they were disturbing, the folks that were made to be slaves or not. They just didn't care, you know. So,
Right.
that's. But Congressman, we should look to invite the doctor on to talk to him.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
Definitely. I'm reaching out to sit down with her.
Yeah.
And she has a great presentation. They're trying to do a documentary around it, Zaid, and the project. So yeah, definitely I'll get her on to speak about it. Maybe I'll try to have her for next month.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, that's
it'd
one
be good.
thing.
It'd be the end of Black History Month, right?
Yes.
And that'd be one way for you to say, look, I want to be fully engaged. Let me bring you to the show, and and let's go out and let's just make it bigger. Let's tell everybody about it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that would be great. Yeah.
Consider it done. Dr. Lundy will be on here next month.
Looking forward to it. Yep.
Congressman, your DJ has joined us.
I see. I wonder where he had been. The last couple of weeks, I thought about that. I said, I ain't seen that brother in two months or so. What's happening?
He romancing, making babies and stuff.
Yeah, but see, DJ Rhino, right? See, he works for you. He bounces every year. He bounced to go work privately and personally for the congressman. He's like, yo, I'm out. I'm going down. I'm hanging out with the
congressman. That's all right. And in 2024, the whole All Politics Are Local team is bouncing with you. So
all right,
that's all. We are coming.
Y'all gonna come down to the new party.
We're coming down to broadcast our show from ALC, and we hope to be there from the Wednesday until Sunday, so they can get the gist. And we'll kind of hook up.
So you're gonna broadcast from there?
Yeah, we're gonna work with Reverend Sharpton for team and see if we can tap onto their broadcast.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah, Rhino, tell him I got a little something going on with that party, right?
Yeah, man, he's got the new party going on. It's a whole new thing popping off now.
But how did you like that being in the train station? That was dope, right?
Yeah, that was dope. That was real dope.
Y'all had a party in the train station?
Yeah.
Yeah, Union Station. We had
it's
party
beautiful.
Union Station for the party. Yep.
Wow.
Do you remember, Congressman Payne, when Pastor Watley's son used to do Wednesday service out of the train station?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't remember? You don't?
Nah, that's
Pastor
before me.
Yeah.
Now you know me in the church. You know God.
But you know Pastor Watley, so I mean,
I do.
Yeah, his son.
Hey, look, I had to take your word for it. Oh, really? He did that?
Yeah, but
I'll take your word
that
for it.
station is beautiful.
Beautiful. Oh yeah.
Oh.
You know, Bill Clinton had his ball there in the main forum, and it's got that beautiful ceiling with the gold leaping on it. Oh man, it just lends itself, right, Rhino? It just lends itself for a nice, conducive. Even the part. Oh, you know what, Rhino? The piece we were in.
Yeah.
That's where B. Smith's restaurant was.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love this.
So back there where the VIP and all that was.
Yeah.
That was B. Smith's restaurant.
Beautiful.
Wow. Love that system. Yeah.
Yeah. God bless her.
That was a nice spot. That was a real nice spot.
Beautiful, yeah.
And Rhino, what was the acoustics like?
Well, the acoustics were great.
Perfect.
It wasn't too big, and it wasn't, it didn't have like that hall sound or anything like that. So the acoustics were great.
Yeah. Yeah, but I told him, man, we gotta let Dougie go, man. Dougie, I can do his whole routine. We don't need to look. Pay me half what you're giving him. I can do the whole routine,
Who's Dougie?
Dougie Fresh.
Oh, yeah. Can you beatbox? Can you beatbox though?
For the past 2 years, Dougie Fresh came down there representing for the Louisiana side, so he would be there with the big band and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
him and that DJ
him
and that DJ work together, so he knows his whole routine out of Louisiana. But I like him, but I try to talk to my new partner now. My original partner Cedric left, Cedric Richmond, and I got Troy Carter now. But Troy is enamored by this Dougie Fresh thing that we keep doing every year. And I'm saying, like, you're missing the concept. This is the new party. It's nothing.
It's supposed to be new.
Right. You know, there isn't very much that we are recreating every year.
Right.
And so, you know,
something new every year.
We got to come up with somebody new.
Yeah.
New artists. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
And then plus what Dougie wants, you know, I mean, like I said, give me half of what he's getting and I'll do it, you know.
That's called the Dougie, man. Yeah.
Yeah, doing the Dougie.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's a great, I'm really honored that I've had something grow to that level, you know.
Yeah. And I'm honored to be a part of it, man.
Absolutely. Well, I need somebody to testify, Rhino, that Payne got a little something going on down there.
Oh yeah, that's just Cal. Yeah. This is you returned to the Sunday cruise this year, right? Last year.
I think we it's about two years in.
Okay.
We've done it. Yeah.
So everybody is okay, good. These are okay. I'm sorry, Zaid, you were about to say.
No, before we shifted to Rhino's report out, you know, I mean, we're in 24 now. Dangerous year. We've got some edgy short-term elections coming up, right? Santos's seat is up. Matters like that. What are you seeing? What's your vibration on some of those seats that we got coming up on the short term?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, Dave. Those New York seats, we should be able to recapture quite a few of them that we lost in that last election because you know, Donald Trump has not endeared himself to the people there, and I think Roe v. Wade is going to play a major part in those races in New York.
Right.
And so, I mean, like right now, you know, they're in the majority, but they're in the majority by 2 seats. So all we need to do is flip 2 seats right now. And I think we're very close to that. Mondaire Jones is trying to make a comeback. The man that Santos replaced, his name is Tom Swazi. He's running again, so I think he can recapture that seat because the only reason he wasn't reelected is he ran for governor. He wanted to try to attempt to run for governor.
Common sense Democrat. That's a
right.
Yeah.
So I think he can make an easy comeback because the people of that district, you know, liked him, and it wasn't a instance where
no scandal or nothing.
Right. So I think we're in good shape, and I think there are quite a few seats across the country that we are going to make inroads on. So I think we're sitting in a very good place. We're about to make history and elect the first Black Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries from the the Kingdom of Brooklyn, New York.
Nice.
Is going to be the next Speaker of the House, God willing. And you know, I've had a great relationship with him. We came to Congress at the same time, and you know, I can remember when I was kind of old hand because of, you know, my father and me knowing my way around and kind of showing him, and you want to do this, you want to do now, you don't want to do that, and I'm kind of guiding him. Now it's like, yes, sir. What would you like me to do, sir? Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. So it's amazing his ability and the leadership. I mean, he has captured the imagination of the Democratic Party to the point where there's nobody running against him. He's become the presumptive leader of the Democratic Party.
They feel comfortable in his leadership. That's beautiful.
I mean, just as smooth. I mean, you know, it was almost like we went to sleep and snapped our fingers, and he was the leader.
Mm.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. But you know what I tell people all the time, Zay, is that we need to thank AOC. Because if she hadn't beat Joe Crowley, there would be no Hakeem Jeffries right now.
That's right. That's real
talk. She removed Crowley out of Jeffries' way.
Things
so every time I tell people, I say, y'all better go thank AOC.
Now, having said that, I gotta ask you this one, right? Brandon, I jumped away. Right. I'm worried about, we just had a segment, 2 segments. We had the Uhuru Movement on, and we had a Palestinian segment on, a young brother from Jerusalem on and whatnot. So somebody got to talk to your old girl Nancy Pelosi. Stuff that she's floating around about, investigation is a euphemism for the FBI coming after folks. Around the question of Palestinian solidarity. She still floated that stuff that we need to go after them like as if they're Russian agents. That's all happening, to the Uhuru movement, and that can and if that's the playbook, any one of us can be targeted for some mess.
Absolutely.
Like that. Somebody need to talk to old girl.
You know what? You know what's interesting too? Like I've run into her in the hallway twice this week, and she's always engaging towards me and kind of treats me like a young son of hers. And she was talking to, there just happened to be a rabbi and his son there. And he was talking about, next to them, Nancy Pelosi knows how to keep the numbers up in their families. And what Pelosi said to him? He said, yeah. Now she's Italian. She said, yeah, I have more Jewish grandchildren in Congress than most Jews. So to your point, Zay, she is definitely influenced by that, and that's duly noted. I've been some might say wishy-washy, but I've been careful. But Netanyahu's got to go. Netanyahu is a war criminal. Netanyahu is not worthy of leading anybody, and he's just a criminal. And so I've been speaking out against Netanyahu, and also there's a concern of mine of the number of people on the Palestinian side that have died in this whole endeavor, and I think 30,000 people is enough, and we need to force Israel into backing down a bit. And also, I made a statement today about the applauding President Biden for the sanctions against the West Bank
settlers,
dangerous, illegally there. And so I applauded the Biden administration with respect to that. I mean, he's standing up. He's standing up to him in public. A lot of people aren't satisfied with what he's doing, but behind the scenes, he's kicking Netanyahu's back in. Us that know the whole story, we really giving Netanyahu hell. And so, just so y'all know that going forward, he postures on TV, but Netanyahu does not want to see Biden coming right now.
The mayor had said when he was on, I think it might have been a show or 2 shows when he came on. And remember, Zaid, when he said, what people failed to remember before that October 7th thing, remember there was a number of Jewish organizations in Israel who had organized to have him removed.
Right.
And people forget that, right? And so he needed to
I've always been suspicious on how that attack got off so easily with all of their military capacity.
Yeah.
Right.
I've always been skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're questioning that, Zay. They're looking at that because it looks like Netanyahu.
The 11th largest military in the world is Israel.
And it's only as big as New Jersey.
Come on, man. You know,
it's the same size
and
as
they
New
couldn't
Jersey.
see that coming.
Well, Congressman, when you come back to us, early March would be Women's History Month, but the primary would have also happened, and I think the primary is in South Carolina in February 24th. So you got to call Ed's cousins to make sure they get out there and vote this time.
How about that?
You remember that?
Come on, get them to the polls, Ed. Get them to the polls.
Get all them Rileys down there to get out of vote.
How about that?
How do you think, is South Carolina gonna bring us a big surprise, or is it just gonna?
I think that Mr. Clyburn is going to be able to work his magic again. And
you know who Clyburn is related to?
Who?
Y'all know? Y'all remember Queen Mother Imaku?
Yeah.
They're cousins.
What?
Oh wow.
They're cousins.
Wow, small world.
And you know the joke between us with Clyburn. He tells Pastorell that he's lucky. He's lucky he didn't stay in New Jersey because you know Clyburn got married in Patterson.
Wow.
You know, just like we go down south, like to see our relatives.
Yeah.
He used to come north when he was a boy.
Wow.
Patterson.
That's hard to believe.
So when he met his wife, he got a job up here. He thought he was going to relocate up here to Patterson. He said, man, they stayed 2 weeks. He said they went back to South Carolina. They want this mess. And so every time he sees Pastorell,
it's a proud state to mess your head up.
They tell him, you're lucky. You're lucky I didn't stay here because you wouldn't have had a job.
He'd been better than Israel too.
Well, listen,
DJ
man.
Rhino, say something before
let's
we
give
start.
DJ Rhino some time. We out of time to report. Let's let him give us any updates he wants to.
You're muted, Rhino.
Real quick, I just want to say happy anniversary to Brand Nubian for their sophomore album, In God We Trust. Today, in 1993, they put out their sophomore album, In God We Trust. This was the
93.
Album. Yeah, 1993.
That's
yeah, that
31 years ago.
Amazing.
That was the album that had Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down.
Yeah.
You Gotta Love Me or Leave Me Alone. Allahu Akbar. They had a whole.
That was a loaded album.
This was the album that Black and Blue, where they had the big song talking about black cops and police brutality and stuff like that. This was also the album where, you know, when they first came out, it was three of them. It was Grand Poobah, Sadat X, and Lord Jamar. But on this sophomore album, it was just Sadat X and Lord Jamar, and everybody was wondering what was going on between the group. They were wondering if they could, you know, hold their own without Grand Poobah, because Grand Poobah was a strong figure in the group.
Right.
But they put out the album and it ended up being a big smash. Again, you know, they had Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down. They had the video for that. It was a whole thing behind that. They even had a controversy with some of the lyrics in there, and they switched it up. But yeah, so just happy anniversary to Brand Nubian and the anniversary to the album In God We Trust, which came out today in 1993.
Yeah, Rhino, they how they were, and they never left the streets. So, when certain things jumped off, they still, even though they were making money and in this whole new record, they still dealt with things from the streets. And they had a little disagreement with their record label on what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin was working there at the time, and they evacuated the offices because the Nubians said they were coming up there to clean the motherfucker out.
Yeah, see, that was back in the 90s when that kind of stuff was going on, you know.
And
I remember the story.
And with the group, I was always partial to Sadat X more than Pooh Bah myself, to be honest. You know,
Yeah,
Pooh
he had
Bah
an
was
unorthodox style.
Yeah, Pooh Bah got a lot of the notoriety, but you know, when Sadat X came on his bars, I was always on it. You know.
Yeah, because he had an unorthodox style. Plus, his voice was unique, you know, and
it was a little higher pitched.
Yeah, it was a little high pitched and a little nasal.
Right.
But yeah, his bars were always, he would have certain bars that fell at strange points in time. But that's what made him unique, and you know, Sadat X was definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Big ups to Sadat, man. Also, if you guys have not already, I don't know if you guys have this platform called Peacock. You know, there's so many now. You got Peacock, Disney, and all of this. But if you go to
Peacock does a lot of NBC stuff.
Yeah, so Peacock has a documentary of these brothers right here, Run DMC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's called The Kings from Queens. It's a three-part series.
Yes.
It's a three-part series, 3 episodes, but it really goes thoroughly into the story of Run DMC. This is a documentary we've been wanting to see. I mean, when I first heard about it, I thought it was way overdue, like super overdue. But it's very thorough, man. And this is the documentary we've always wanted for Run DMC, because they start at the very beginning with Russell Simmons, and when Russell first got in the game with Curtis Blow, going into Run becoming the DJ for Curtis Blow, and then breaking his arm and then having to do something else, and he's tried to rap and tried to pull DMC. People weren't taking DMC seriously at first, but Run fought for DMC to be his partner. I mean, they really go down in the whole thing. It's 3 episodes, and it's really good. It's on Peacock. You can check it out now. It's called Kings from Queens, and it's the Run DMC story. Definitely go check it out. It's a beautiful thing, man. You know, they get into the whole thing with Jam Master Jay, how he became, you know, their DJ, how, you know, their whole look and style basically came from Jam Master Jay. He was like the street credibility guy.
Right.
Yeah, so he had the look, he had the flavor and the style, and then that made
Run trial is going on now too.
Yeah, the trial for his murder is going on right now too. So, you know, it's just a perfect time. And you know, I wish my brother Tane One from Artifacts was here, because when him and I first got together, it was on Run DMC, Suck at MC when they first came out, and that's all we lived and breathed was Run DMC and that first single. But yeah, definitely check it out. Kings from Queens. It's 3 episodes. It's a thorough documentary on Run DMC. So definitely go check that out.
Man, I'm locking in the Peacock now as you speak.
Run DMC forever, bro. Run DMC forever.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I was making sure I had it. I was like, yeah, I got that. I don't really use it, but I got it. You know.
Hey, Rhino, you know what? You know how I am with my music. You know, I get like the offbeat, like songs that didn't get the respect I thought they should. You know what? One of my biggest Run DMCs is
what?
You Be Illin'.
Oh, You Be Illin'.
I just like the pace.
Yeah.
You know, the pace and the speed of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, You Be Illin'. That's my song.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And in the documentary, you know, they get into the, you know, how Larry Smith was their first producer. And then they went from Larry Smith and went into Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin was like the guy behind the hard beats.
Right.
So yeah, it was really good, man. I watched it twice so far, and yeah, it's a really good documentary.
Well, I'm gonna beat Congressman Payne. As soon as I get off, I'm gonna start watching it. Congressman Payne, he gonna fall asleep. I'll start watching it.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen, I almost fell asleep waiting to come on the show tonight. I looked up, it was 8:01. I was like, whoa, almost got it. Yeah. I was almost in.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, people. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, people. So
yeah.
But that's it for me.
All right.
Brand new, yeah.
Good to see you, brother.
You too, brother. Always.
Well, listen, y'all, we've come to the end of another show. And so, Zahid, why don't we go ahead and thank everybody before we thank the Congressman last? So,
Loaded show. The Uhuru team, Penny Hess, one of the defendants of the Uhuru 3, Lisa Davis, who brought everybody in, and Bakra, brother who goes back in the New York community, and found both of them who found their voice with the Uhuru movement, in solidarity to Uhuru 3 as they get ready to go through this legal ordeal, right? And Khaled Farrag, and shout out Dr. Myrna Morales for facilitating his coming aboard for that conversation. We got some insights into the Palestinian question that are, not even raised much in the context of Palestinian solidarity from that brother. That was a good conversation. And of course, we come full circle with our congressman, right? And from everything from hip hop to Nancy Pelosi,
and everything in between.
that's true. We cover the spectrum with the Congress.
Zayd, I always have an eclectic.
Yeah.
From Nancy Pelosi to Sadat X.
Oh no! Hey, and don't forget the Ducky.
That's right. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, look, like I always tell people, I gotta rock the bourgeois or the boulevard. It don't matter. I gotta get down in both.
I need to see the Zanzibar moves. I need to see you in front of the speaker.
Oh God, listen. Oh, you want to see the Zanzibar gays? This is about it.
Take care of that damn foot. That's what you better do.
This is about it. Run away. Better not hesitate.
Congressman, before we leave, do you realize what Essex County, you could go see LL Cool J, then go down the street and see somebody at Zanzibar, $10 shows, Grace, oh my, the shows that I have seen that between Sensations,
unreal.
Just real, it was just a night time. My brother Keith wrote a paper that Newark should have been the number one place for jazz. It was only our zip code that, in other words, that we were competing against New York, that with the entertainment that came out of Newark, New Jersey.
You know what I gotta find? Well, let me tell you what I've always said about that disco era. I was going to Xenon's and Studio 54 and the Garage and the Peppermint Lounge and CBGB's. I mean,
Whispers.
I was kind of interwoven in that whole deal. But the Garage was really the place, the Mecca, with Larry Levan and a young man out of Newark, New Jersey, who made that connection to Zanzibar for Larry Levan. Larry Levan didn't play a lot of places. Larry Levan played at the Garage, and Larry Levan played at Zanzibar, which had the dopest system outside of New York in this area. That room at Zanzibar, that system that Miles Berger put in there, second to none, that it would draw Larry Levan to that place. T. Scott would come. I mean, Rhino, you know these names. Mm-hmm. A young brother that was from Newark that really became popular in that whole New York vibe, DJ Hippie. He worked. He
does the Lincoln Park. Yeah.
Yeah, Hippie worked at Heaven on Earth during the day and DJ at Doc's. Rhino, you know where Doc's was, right?
Doc's is over there, Hollywood and East Orange?
No. Doc's was right above, where the McDonald's is on Broad Street, where it was?
Yeah.
There's that store in the corner, there's a walk up, and Doc's was a disco. It was open 5 o'clock on a Sunday, and you would swear it was the middle of Saturday night. And it was open like 5:30 Sunday afternoon, and you'd be in there like it was Saturday night clubbing. Wow. It was so deep.
We
right
started
on Broad Street.
We started on Thursday, went all the way to Sunday, and went to work on Monday. Woo.
Well, listen.
No, we start on Wednesday because I went to Zanzibar Wednesday night, it was AIDS Disco Lounge after work on Thursday. The Garage or Xenons or CBGBs in the city on Friday night, and end up at the Peppermint Lounge on Saturday night. Oh, you know what? You know what was interesting though? You know, we were big garage hounds, and you know, that was actually, you know, a gay club, but they on Friday nights, you know, they sold memberships and let you know, heteros come in. But so we thought we were cool one night, so we were gonna go on a Saturday night. Man, you talk about holding on to my cousin. I said, don't turn your back. Whatever you do, don't turn your back. I tried to be, hey, I went on a Saturday one night.
Sounds like the Limelight. You remember the Limelight?
Oh, yeah.
So here's a
Hey,
trivia.
look, hey, Zay, remember back in Newark in the day where they had the girl and the dudes, they would all be hustling?
Yeah.
You know, with the girl, they grab her out the middle and they started. They were doing that with a dude that night.
But remember, if anybody, before we go, Ed, last question, 990 Broad Street, right on the corner of Orange and Broad, where Rutgers is right now. Down on the bottom, there used to be a club there. Somebody's gonna have to remember that club. It was a club right in 990 Broad.
Miles owned it. I'll tell you what it was. I'll ask Miles. Oh, you know
we
what?
gotta bring Miles on. Miles,
I got a book. Oh yeah, Miles. Listen, Miles Berger was the reason there was a nightlife in club music and in this area. He owned the East Orange
Lincoln
Motel. He owned the Lincoln down there. He had Jersey City. I mean, Miles was really the reason there was a nightlife in the club scene in Newark, New Jersey. And I got a book that he made from those Zanzibar days that I got to bring on and let y'all take a look at.
We have to do that.
You definitely need to invite Miles on, man. We'd love to.
That'd be a dope show.
The history.
Oh, yeah. Now, you know what? I'll reach out to Miles and tell him that they want to bring him on and talk about those days and how he got started and all that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yep. So you got two assignments. You got to get that sister on for the 313 plus, and we got to put Miles on. All right.
Yes, sir.
So listen, y'all, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We know we're a little late, but we appreciate all y'all for sticking with us tonight. And I can tell by all of the people in the chat, they really enjoyed the eclectic show.
Who came through?
It was so much going on. So listen, we thank y'all until next week. We'll see y'all next week. As my brother Zaid like to say, where we gonna catch him, Zaid?
In the whirlwind.
We'll catch y'all in the whirlwind.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.